Living, disabled, dead. Although Yi Tian's voice is calm, Zhu Yeye feels a strong sense of confidence and determination from his words. Even suddenly, she felt that the real murderer, whom she had tried hard for several years, could be found by Yi Tian. I want to live, revenge this matter, absolutely can't fake the hand of others. Immediately, Zhu Yeye looked at Yi Tian and said in a deep voice. Well, I'll find out the real murderer and give him to you. Yi Tian nodded and immediately said, but I have a request. I want to borrow your Kongming cicada, that is, your little green. I need it to cooperate. No problem. Zhu Yeye nodded. Come on, go back to the welfare home. Find out the real murderer, today. Yi Tian nods, then takes Zhu Yeye and turns back to the welfare home. Zhu Yeye looks at Yi Tian's back. After a little silence, she follows Yi Tian. I don't know why, she has a strong trust in this man, and thinks that maybe he can really help himself. On the way back to the welfare home, Zhu Yeye also told the reason why she got the red line of Yin Sha and the reason why she was empty and bright. It turned out that after the tragedy, Zhu Yeye did not dare to live in the welfare home every night. She was afraid that the animal would come to the door again, hide in the forest, and be found by him. So she went to the valley where Insha Redline and Kongmingchan were. She tried to protect herself with the strange power she didn't know at that time, so that she would not be hurt anymore. In this way, over time, she and Insha Hongxian and Kongmingchan became friends. At that time, she was still young, only knew how to avoid, but did not want to revenge, but with the growth of age, she gradually had the intention of revenge. So, after graduating from university, she returned to Annam town. At the beginning, she was investigating the events of that year to find out the real culprit. However, although she tried her best, she never found the real culprit, or even any clues. In such a strong sense of revenge, she gradually wanted to revenge all the people in Annan town and let them pay the price of bleeding. Later, it was simple. She used the red line of Yin evil to put In Shi into all the people in the town and let them suffer. Do you remember the reason why you came back to Annam at the beginning? Besides revenge, other ideas? Yi Tian listened to these stories, sighed gently, then looked at Zhu Yeye and asked in a deep voice. Another idea? Zhu Yeye's face was puzzled when she heard the news. But immediately, her heart was suddenly shocked, and her eyes were full of insight. When I went back to Annam, I hoped that if there was another little girl in the town who suffered that kind of pain, someone could stand up, protect her, trust her, and let the original tragedy never happen again. After a long time, Zhu Yeye's eyelids trembled and slowly said word by word. At this moment, she suddenly remembered what she thought when she came back to Annam town. Besides hatred, she also wanted to protect other girls. But gradually, she was completely occupied by hatred, only hatred remained in her eyes, and she forgot what she thought of protecting others. She didn't understand, what's the matter with her, and suddenly forgot those thoughts in her heart at the beginning. You have daily contact with In Sha. Although they have no intention, they will also help to raise the negative emotions in your heart. Over time, they will make you more and more extreme. Have you ever thought that when the real murderer is punished, you will choose to go on the road of cultivation like me, and let yourself have the plan to control the red line of In evil, and let it be used by you without being disturbed? Yi Tian sighs gently and tells Zhu Yeye the truth, then inquires. As he said, the red line of In Sha, although it is a top-grade spiritual treasure with a little spirituality, is a thing of In Sha no matter what. If a person's mind is not so powerful and often contacts with it, his heart will be affected, not to mention Zhu Yeye, who has hatred in her heart. It can be said that when Zhu Yeye came to this stage, the influence of the red line of In evil also occupied 50% or 60%. I will. Zhu Yeye heard, without any hesitation, looking at Yi Tian, nodded solemnly. She wants to be strong, but also want to be able to let themselves not be affected, cannot forget the original intention of the past, can protect the other girls in Annan town, give them a wall, wind and rain. Similarly, she also hopes that when danger comes, she can effectively protect them. When it's over, I'll give you the method. Your future achievements depend on you. Yi Tian nodded with a smile, but looking at Zhu Yeye's eyes, there was more hope. You know, it's still very difficult to get the recognition of Lingbao and Spirit Beast. Although Zhu Yeye didn't set foot on the road of cultivation, she has been recognized by Lingbao and spirit beasts such as Kongming Cicada, which means that her starting point will be much higher than other practitioners, especially on the earth. He believes that as long as Zhu Yeye abides by her heart and is no longer harassed by the hatred in her heart, she will be strong in the future. During the conversation, the two returned to the welfare home. "Mr. Zhu, Mr. Yi, have you found anything?" As soon as they saw them, the children in the welfare home gathered around and asked. And those old people, also looking at Yi Tian and Zhu Yeye nervously, want to know whether they will be harassed like Lao Li too. "We're fine. It's almost clear." Yi Tian lied, then toward Zhu Ye you make a wink. "Zhu Ye you see, quickly put the shoulder of empty cicada," handed Yi Tian. Cicadas sing happily. Catching the empty cicada, Yi Tian's magic power suddenly turns and comes into the cicada. Immediately, he drinks softly. Cicada cicada. In a flash, along the body of the empty cicada, there were bursts of cicada chirping. One after another, the terror was like the sound of a high-pitched horn. In an instant, it spread all over the welfare home. This. Zhu Yeye looks at the scene in front of her. Although she has been in contact with Kong Mingshan for many years, she never thought that it could be so loud. Not only that, when the sound wave of the cicadas chirping spread out, along the welfare home, no matter the children or the old people, their eyes suddenly became blurred and swayed on the ground. Finally, they leaned on the ground, and their eyes were full of dull color. The mind attack of Kongming cicada, combined with the mana, is really powerful. Zhu Yeye, when she grows up in the future, is absolutely qualified to stand at the top of the pyramid. Even Yi Tian, also slightly tongue, is some envy Zhu Yeye's good luck. Insha Redline, empty cicada, no matter which of the two, are rare treasures, but now, they are all got by Zhu Yeye's chance. However, he also understood that all these gains, I am afraid, can only be regarded as God's compensation for the girl. If there is a choice, what Zhu Yeye hopes for may be a peaceful 12th birthday, not everything now. However, now, I want to help her find out the real murderer, for many years ago that night, the helpless little girl, get back at justice. Similarly, he also wants to let the culprit understand that the punishment for the evildoer is not that he does not report it, but that the time has not come. No matter how time goes by, the truth will come out and the crime will be severely punished. In those days, those who blasphemed Zhu Yeye set out. Thinking of this, Yi Tian opened his mouth slowly, and suddenly swept the whole welfare home. The voice, both grand and ethereal, seemed to go straight into the soul of the listeners, directly into their heart, and catch the evil devil. "That's how he got justice for me?" Zhu Yeye was shocked by the strangeness of the sound, and at the same time, she was also at a loss. If, just shout, the real murderer will appear, then she in the past so many years, also don't have to find the truth so hard. With a sound, the welfare home is as silent as iron. Although Zhu Yeye didn't believe it, she was still staring at the people in the welfare home, hoping for a miracle. Yi Tian looks calm, quietly looking at the people in the welfare home, with no doubt on his face. He has enough self-confidence in his own strength. He attacks the mind with empty cicada, which makes people fall into a hypnotic state. Combined with his secret technique of soul-taking and awe, as long as the animal's mind strength is not above him, he will be directly pointed at his heart and come out of the crowd. And how can ordinary people in a welfare home be above him? If no one comes out, it means that the killer is not among them. Wow! And at this time, in the quiet, suddenly, along the welfare home, someone got up. Zhu Yeye hears the news and looks suddenly. After taking an incredible look at Yi Tian, she quickly walks to the welfare home. Seeing this, Yi Tian followed Zhu Yeye and went to the welfare home. As soon as they entered the yard, they immediately saw a white-haired old man standing in the yard at this moment. Although his eyes were confused, his body was shaking wildly. "It's him." And when he saw the old man's cheek, Yi Tian's look was even more fierce. He didn't expect that the old man who was out of line would be the old Li Tu who had been harassed by Yin Sha before and looked very honest. "Mr. Yi." Seeing this scene, Zhu Yeye shuddered and turned her head to look at Yi Tian. Her eyes were full of the color of exploration. Although she did not speak, but the meaning is very obvious, is to ask Yi Tian, the real murderer is not old Li Tu. "It's him." Yi Tianqian nodded, his mind offensive, absolutely will not make a mistake. If the heart is not dirty, then there will be no action. Originally, it was him. Zhu Yeye trembled all over and stared at Lao Litu's cheek. Her eyes turned red. She still remembers that when she was in the welfare home, Lao Litu always hissed at her and helped her do all kinds of things, and after what happened, no one believed her. Only Lao Litu helped her find all kinds of evidence, making her feel that there was still a warmth in the world. But I didn't expect that the old man who looked so kind was the culprit, the beast. At this moment, Zhu Yeye only felt that her world was about to collapse. In her heart, there was a strong killing opportunity. Keep your heart, don't be harassed again, remember what you thought when you came back to Annam. Yi Tian feels the strong evil spirit sent out by Zhu Yeye. As soon as her eyes change, she immediately runs the idea of Suiwang Temple, contemplates the big day, a breath of the big day, hits Zhu Yeye, and clears away her negative emotions such as anger and murder. Next, he reached out and took the Insha red thread off Zhu Yeye's wrist. Although she has a little spirit, she doesn't have the ability to control Insha. Zhu Yeye's wearing it on her will greatly affect her mood. He worried that under such circumstances, even if the real murderer was found out, under the extreme anger, Zhu Yeye would not be able to restrain her anger and repeat the previous mistakes. Wheezing. At the moment when the red line of Insha was taken off from her wrist, the scarlet color of Zhu Yeye's eyes faded immediately. But in her eyes, tears were shining, her body was more like a swing, and she was convulsed crazily. Moreover, along the wings of her nose, there were bursts of gasps after she was rescued from drowning. This is not the place to deal with him. Let's take him to the mountains. Yi Tian looks at Zhu Yeye's appearance and knows that she is angry. He immediately reaches out his hand and lifts Lao Li's head. After winking at Zhu Yeye, they quickly leave the welfare home. In a moment, they rush to the depths of the mountains and return to the valley where the red line of Insha lies. Dawn. After arriving, Yi Tian shakes his hand and throws Old Li's head on the ground at the mouth of the valley. Ouch! When he fell to the ground, the sharp pain made Old Li Tukai wake up from his lethargy. He rubbed Ruru's body and swept around. When he saw that he came to the valley, Jai Lingling shivered. When he saw Yi Tian and Zhu Yeye again, his face immediately showed confusion and asked, Mr. Yi, Mr. Zhu, I was just in the welfare home? How did you get here? I've caught the man. I'll give you what to do with it. Yi Tian doesn't understand Lao Litu's words, and doesn't want to pay attention to him. He just turns his head and looks at Zhu Yeye and says in a deep voice, Thank you. After hearing this, Zhu Yeye expressed her sincere thanks to Yi Tiancheng. She turned her head and looked at Lao Litu, saying, What did you want to say about 13 years ago? 13 years ago? What's the matter? Looking at Zhu Yeye's aggressive eyes, Lao Li's body trembled, but he followed closely, showing a simple, honest and flattering smile, as if he was at a loss. Did you really forget, or did you pretend to be stupid with me? 13 years ago, on the night of my 12th birthday, what happened? Did you forget? Was that man you? Zhu Yeye's eyes were cold. She looked directly into Lao Li's eyes and said in a deep voice. It was that thing. Old Li too pretended to wake up like a dream. After shaking, he pretended to be confused and said, That thing, you haven't forgotten it for so many years. Why don't I remember? I was still helping you to find out which animal it was. You just asked suddenly, I didn't remember, so I asked you what it was. But yeah, how can you think that beast is me? You're still quibbling. Zhu Yeye looks at Old Li too and shakes her head with a sneer. Her smile is full of contempt and anger. She didn't expect that at this moment, Lao Li would like to continue acting with her. Yeah, I really don't know what you mean. Old Li too shook his head and continued. Mr. Yi, please help me and let him tell the truth. Zhu Yeye stares at Old Li too for a moment, then looks back at Yi Tian and prays. Yi Tian nodded, and immediately, the idea of Suiwang Temple was working. It was like a body turning into a big day. A fiery breath suddenly diffused and swept over Lao Li's head. It was like a god coming into the world, with a heavenly constitution in his mouth. He said one word at a time, What have you done, say it. and exit, old Li Tu immediately a bottom falls to sit on the ground, the fear of looking at Leaf Day. At this moment, he only felt that Yi Tian in front of him looked like a real god, unattainable, and he was as small as a mole ant. That kind of feeling, just like he as long as a little resistance, or dare to tell lies, will lead to the end of Five Thunder burning.
That man, it's me. I had a drink that night. I've never had a woman before, so I thought thinking about.
Under this powerful attack, Lao Li Tu's heart suddenly collapsed, lost, trembled, and admitted the truth. Immediately, he knelt down on the ground, kowtowed to Zhu Yeye, and begged for mercy. Yeye, please, please forgive me.
I was really bewildered at that time. I knew I was wrong. After so many years, please let me go. A moment of bewilderment? After that, why did you go to my room and pry my door? So many years? You know it's been so many years, but after so many years, how can you hide the truth all the time, even without a word of apology? Zhu Yeye heard the sound, her face was full of sad smile, staring at old Li Tu's eyes, and asked repeatedly word by word. Lao Li's face was flustered and his lips moved, but he could not say a word. Because of your brutality, you will destroy a girl's life, her life, and let her live in pain. Can you erase the pain of more than 10 years with a word of light bewilderment and light apology? Zhu Yeye sneered bitterly, gritted her teeth and asked coldly. Aye. Lao Li opened his mouth and tried to explain himself and find out the reason. It's no use apologizing. You, go to hell. But unfortunately, this time, Zhu Yeye did not give him any chance to speak at all. His blood-red eyes showed a fierce light. He picked up a stone the size of his head and threw it at Lao Li's head. Bang! With a crisp sound, Lao Li's head fell to the ground. The blood overflowed and made the surrounding ground red. Wheezing. After Zhu Yeye finished all this, she fell to the ground, and the whole person seemed to have exhausted all her strength, gasping for breath. Ha, whoa. Then she looked at the corpse of Lao Li Tu. First, she burst out laughing. Then, she suddenly sobbed and tears ran down her cheeks. After so many years, she finally found the real murderer and cut her hand, which made her feel relieved to open the knot in her heart. Similarly, even if she killed the real murderer Lao Li Tu, what happened in those years was still not possible. What happened to her still happened, what she had done in the past years, the pain that I have suffered has not changed. Yi Tian looks at Zhu Yeye and sighs in his heart. Such a thing, the harm to a girl, it is too big. It can even be said that it's cheap to smash old Li's head to death with a stone. This animal should be chemically castrated and severely tortured. Said, Zhu Yeye already was kind-hearted, no matter how, all gave old Li Tu a happy. Mr. Yi, I've got my revenge. Do whatever you want. I'll listen to you. At this time, Zhu Yeye cried and laughed. After a long time, she turned her head and looked at Yi Tian next to her. Her eyes were calm and she said. What? I don't do anything. You just killed a beast. What can I do? Yi Tian gently shakes his head. In a flash, he takes out the acid from the storage ring and pours it on the corpse of old Li Tu. In a flash, along the body of old Li Tu, suddenly there was a stream of smoke, followed by people with clothes, then turned into a pool of scorched black water. Mr. Yi. Zhu Yeye see this scene, surprised at Yi Tian, dare not set channel. She originally thought that Yi Tian would hand over the person who killed him and accept punishment, but now it seems that Yi Tian didn't have this idea and still has to protect her. At least, after Yi Tian's treatment, no matter who it is, it's unexpected that old Li Tu died here. What's more, old Li Tu was killed by her. As I said, you are just killing a dead animal. If you kill such rubbish, you will be punished. Then there is no justice in the world. Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head. He looks at Zhu Yeye and says faintly. Yi Tian has never been a saint. He has a very simple view of things in the world. If he does something right, he will be rewarded. If he does something wrong, he will be punished. Shen Bing of Shuiyuzong is very self-conscious and knows how to advance and retreat, so she should be rewarded. Similarly, if Lao Li Tu does evil to Zhu Yeye, he should be punished. Although he didn't kill Zhu Yeye, in a sense, it's not much different from murdering her. Therefore, now Zhu Yeye killed Lao Li Tu and avenged him. It's really a fair thing. In this case, Yi Tian will only help Zhu Yeye clean up the head and tail, so that people cannot find her head, and will not let Zhu Yeye suffer any punishment. More than 10 years of torture has been cruel to this girl who has never done anything wrong. There is no need for her to get more pain. Thank you, Mr. Yi. Zhu Yeye heard the silence, immediately, toward Yi Tian respectfully thanks. She knows that as long as Yi Tian is willing, she can put herself in prison and accept punishment, but she didn't expect that Yi Tianfei didn't do it. Instead, she helped her out. Don't thank me. I'm just doing what I think is right. Yi Tian waved his hand and interrupted Zhu Yeye's words. Immediately, he said, I will only help you this time. If I hear what you have done in the future, don't blame me for not remembering today's feelings. Don't worry, Mr. Yi. I won't do anything like this again. I will stay here and teach the children, so that the boys can know how to respect and the girls can understand that they have been violated and can speak out boldly. At least one person in the world will believe them. Zhu Yeye shook her head bitterly and slowly told Yi Tian her plan. Good. Yi Tian smiles and nods. Immediately, he takes out a pen and paper from the storage ring, brushes it, writes down a mental cultivation method and his phone number, hands it to Zhu Yeye, and says, Your mind and strength are not strong enough to resist the attack of an evil red line on mind. So I suggest that you don't wear it often, otherwise, you will make your mind extreme. This is the door. If you have any questions, just call me. Well, thank you, Mr. Yi. Zhu Yeye took the paper and bowed respectfully to Yi Tian. Although she is not from the mountain, she only needs to think about how precious it is to cultivate her mind. I don't want to help you in vain. There's one thing I need your help. To be exact, it's the empty cicada. Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head, and immediately says slowly, I want to refine a kind of pill. I need the cicada slew of Kongming cicada to be used as medicine. But as far as I know, Kongming cicada will hide the cicada slew by itself, and I need you to help me take it out. Okay, I'll help you to discuss with Zilv. Zhu Yeye hears the sound and nods without thinking. Then she holds the cicada in her palm and mutters to it. The world is full of wonders. Who can believe that a girl who has no half cultivation can communicate with spirit beast? Yi Tian looked at this scene, tut surprised, but the more so, the more determined he was. After Zhu Yeye embarked on the road of cultivation, his future would be bright. Because, being able to communicate with the spirit beast means that she has a kind of spirituality. This spirituality, being close to nature, is much easier to cultivate than others. Cicada. A moment later, Kongming Cicada Rua made a decision, flapped his wings and rose to call Yi Tianming. After a moment, he turned and flew to the valley. Seeing this, Yi Tian immediately followed the cicada and walked towards the valley. It's like an ancient battlefield here. As soon as Yi Tian gang walked into the valley, he immediately felt a kind of killing atmosphere from the gloomy atmosphere, just like those who had been fighting here. Even after many years, the killing opportunity of their fierce battle was still 3 feet into the ground and could not be dispersed. Cicada. Just as Yi Tian thought about the big day, sheltered his whole body and resisted the attack of the evil spirit and killing intention, the cicada turned back to him again and gave out bursts of cicada chirps. Then he stayed behind a huge rock in the valley. Obviously, its cicada slough was hidden here. Thank you very much. When Yi Tian walks to the big stone, he sees 4 cicadas lying quietly at the joint between the big stone and the ground. Each cicada is shining with a bright yellow light, giving people a warm jade-like feeling. What is this? When Yi Tian stooped to pick up the cicadas, he couldn't help looking at the deep ground under the big stone. He saw that under the big stone, there were some pieces of pale gold, with many lines on them. They were gorgeous and familiar. Zheng. Almost at the same time, the fierce flying sword, which was warm raised by him above the original spirit fire, suddenly gave out bursts of clang, with a strong longing in its voice. These are the fragments of Bang Xianbing's flying sword, and it has the same origin as the fierce soldier flying sword. This change made Yi Tian realize in an instant what these golden fragments under the big stone were. It's just that he got the fragments of fierce swords in Nanhai, but he didn't expect that this part was far away from Annam town in Guizhou province. However, he was not surprised by this. The friars fought for 3,000 li with one sword, not to mention the friars with half-immortal soldiers. After the fragments of the flying sword were smashed, they did not appear in the same area, which was normal. However, Tian was very excited about the discovery of the fragments of the flying sword, because as long as these fragments of the flying sword were melted into the fierce flying sword, it would be enough to improve its quality. Perhaps, it is not impossible to transcend the category of spiritual treasure and ascend the magic weapon. The harvest of these pieces of flying swords is bigger than that of Kongming cicada. Tian carefully put away the fragments of the flying sword on the ground, and his heart was filled with emotion. With these pieces of flying swords, he has 90% confidence in upgrading the fierce flying swords to the level of magic weapon. You should know that the grade of weapons is the same as that of monks. Every leap will be a dramatic change. As long as the fierce soldier's flying sword is transformed into a magic weapon, it will be able to display more power. As long as the array pattern is engraved in it, the flying speed of the sword can be greatly improved, and it will also be able to display the abilities of flowing fire and strong wind. As long as his cultivation is strong enough, a sword can wipe out the mountains and seas. The yin qi of this valley is originally caused by these fragments of fierce soldiers. After putting away the fragments of the flying sword, Tian immediately felt that the yin qi that had gathered here, like the tide, suddenly retreated and slowly changed to a normal state. Not only that, but he did not find any other fragments or traces of the cave. Presumably, it was the intention of killing the half-immortal soldier in the terrible war that broke him down. In addition, the fragments of the fierce sword itself attracted yin qi, which made the valley a gathering place of yin qi and a forbidden Jedi in Annam town. Today, he took away the fragments of the flying sword. In the future, people in Annam town will no longer have to worry about being attacked by yin qi. Well, I'll eat it for you. It's very acute. Immediately after that, Tian smiles and shakes his head. Immediately, he sits on the ground with his knees crossed, and releases the fierce sword from the original spirit fire of Dantian. Zheng! 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 As soon as the fierce sword appeared, it immediately circled around Tian and made terrible trembling sounds. The sound was full of eagerness, which made people feel like a dog saw a snack. What's this? Zhu Yaya looked at this scene, the whole person shocked, inexplicable, head buzzing. In the past, she only saw such a picture on TV. She thought it was an artistic achievement created by her magnificent imagination. But today, she really saw someone who could fly a sword out of her body, and it was also a flying sword that could fly by herself. Even at this moment, she couldn't help pinching herself. After feeling the pain, she decided that this was not an illusion, but a real situation. Su. At this time, a scene that made Zhu Yaya even more shocked appeared. With Tian's fingers moving gently, a flame suddenly flew out of his fingertips, followed by the fierce soldier flying sword. It was very active to reduce the body of the sword, and became as big as a needle, flying into the flame. Training troops, cooperation. After that, Tian's hand flicks, and the pieces of the fragments fly up into the flame. The original spirit fire just turns a few turns, and then melts the fragments into a golden liquid. Then, the fierce flying sword is like a greedy fish. It can't help but start to circle in the flame, devouring the strands of golden liquid and entering the sword body. As soon as the golden liquid entered the fierce soldier's flying sword, it suddenly began to shudder. The colorful golden veins spread rapidly along its body, forcing out many impurities. People feel that this flying sword is undergoing a transformation. Wind, fire and thunder. Soldier pattern. Cast at this time, Tian drank low and immediately raised his hands lightly, which aroused the aura of heaven and earth, sketched out a series of military patterns, and entered into the flying sword. These soldier patterns can construct the field of the flying sword, and greatly improve its sharpness, firmness, and flying speed. Moreover, other soldier patterns can make the flying sword burst out more powerful power, such as wind, fire, thunder, and so on. After entering the flying sword, a series of soldier patterns swayed and outlined, slowly changing those golden patterns into various mysterious rune patterns. In a short period of time, the flying sword is like a world-shaking transformation. All kinds of rune patterns are intertwined.
It makes people feel that at this moment, it doesn't look like a powerful weapon with great lethality, but a beautiful handicraft.
Magic weapon, success.
After a long time, the essence of Yi Tian's eyes flashed, the original spirit fire dissipated, and the fierce flying sword suddenly took shape. The body of the sword trembled slightly, and the streamer was surging. It kept flying around Yi Tian's body, bringing forth a series of terrible sound bursts.
Even people could not see its essence, only the light was flying.
This kind of speed is definitely tens of times higher than before.
Without any hesitation, Yi Tian leaps onto the flying sword and pours his magic into it.
With a schwa, he only feels that the light in front of him has changed, and then he feels that the sky is blowing. Looking around, people have appeared in the sky, surrounded by clouds. The explosive speed of this instant flying is more than 100 times faster than before.
Chop!
What's more, when Yi Tian reaches out to hold the hilt of the fierce flying sword and cuts it forward, not only does the sharp sword chi fly out of the sword body and fight forward, but also there is a terrible thunder around the sword chi, which is like a power grid.
Boom!
When the sword fell down, a huge crack about half a meter wide and 5 or 6 feet long was immediately opened along the ground, and all the surrounding vegetation turned into coke. After casting the fragments, the fierce flying sword has been greatly improved.
Yi Tian looked up and down at Fei Jian with joy.
His eyes were full of joy. In the past, Fei Jian could not do this. What's more, he felt that he didn't show all the power of the flying sword. It's not that the quality of the flying sword is not good, but that his current cultivation level is too low. The cultivation of the 7th floor in the cave and the operation of the flying sword are just like a horse pulling a cart.
He can't show the most powerful power at all. As long as he breaks through the sea view, everything will change dramatically.
By then, the power of flying sword will be in full bloom. However, even so, Yi Tian believes that the magic weapon flying sword is in hand.
No matter where the earth is, he can go. Immediately after that, Yi Tian moves his mind and puts the fierce sword above the original spirit fire of Dantian.
He continues to cast it to improve the quality. At the same time, he tries his best to control the ferocity of the fierce sword so as not to backfire. After all, as a magic weapon, the internal ferocity of a fierce soldier is stronger than before. If he doesn't control it well, in case of backfire, he may be confused and become a killing tool with only terrible killing thoughts in his heart.
Mr. Yi, are you a fairy?
Zhu Yeye saw that the flying sword was put away by Yi Tian. She was relieved.
Then she looked at Yi Tian and asked in a trembling voice.
Just now, Yi Tian's means have gone beyond her understanding. She feels that there is no difference between Yi Tian and the legendary Immortals.
This kind of power is really shocking.
Ha ha ha, I'm not a fairy. Hearing this, Yi Tian shook his head with a smile, then looked at Zhu Ye's suspicious eyes and said, "Believe me, according to the cultivation method I gave you, you have been practicing. One day, you will find that you will become an immortal at some time. I can also become a god." Zhu Ye hears the sound and looks at Yi Tian in consternation. She can't believe it, but she immediately shows her determination and nods her head. Now her hatred has been avenged, but in this world, there are too many girls who have had similar experiences with her, but they live in pain and can't find the real murderer or the person who can help them to do justice. Now that Yi Tian has given her a chance to become strong, she should cherish this opportunity and try her best to make herself strong from now on. She can be as strong as today's Yi Tian and become a beam of light in the hearts of those girls to illuminate the darkness in their hearts. A moment later, Yi Tian returns to the welfare home with Zhu Yeye. With the sound of the cicada, he hypnotized the people in the welfare home again, rewriting their memories, so that these people only thought that after Laoli too was attacked by evil, he stumbled into the mountain forest and forgot the picture of him and Zhu Yeye taking him away. From now on, you can do what you want. Revenge, but you can't be blinded by it. After everything is done, Yi Tian and Zhu Yeye come to a secluded mountain forest, looking at her eyes and laughing.
"Thank you, Mr. Yi."
Zhu Yeye reddened her eyes and looked at Yi Tian. She sincerely thanks her. If it wasn't for Yi Tian, she didn't know when she would be able to find out the real murderer. Similarly, I'm afraid she would make a big mistake and let the whole Annam town bury Laoli Tu alone. By then, her revenge might have been avenged, but I'm afraid she would never be able to live a peaceful life.
Don't thank me. It's you who want to thank. Yi Tian looked at Zhu Yeye and said with a light smile. As he said, the reason why he forgives Zhu Yeye is not only because Zhu Yeye is a victim, but also because of Zhu Yeye's benevolence towards him. That little benevolence shows that although Zhu Yeye is eager for revenge, she is not willing to implicate those innocent people in her heart. In this case, he doesn't mind pulling Zhu Yeye out of the abyss of hatred, and helping her revenge, and cleaning up the head and tail for her, so that she doesn't have to worry about her hatred at the same time, so she will be blamed instead. If, at that time, in the valley, Zhu Yeye wanted to kill him, then, he didn't mind, and solved Zhu Yeye with one sword. Live for yourself, not for hatred. Yi Tian said once more, and in a moment, he rose with his sword and flew to the sky. Suddenly, his figure disappeared in the sky, such as melting with the blue sky and white clouds. He came and went in a hurry, which made people feel that he was an immortal who happened to pass by in the sky. When he saw the injustice, he drew his sword to help him. When it happened, he brushed his clothes and left. I will live a good life, live for myself, to be a beam of light like you, to illuminate the lives of other girls. Zhu Yeye stared at the direction of Yi Tian's departure. After a long time, she murmured word by word. She is grateful to Yi Tian, not only for taking revenge for herself, but also for cleaning her head and tail. She is even more grateful that if she falls into the abyss and is about to be engulfed by the darkness, Yi Tian reaches out a hand and gives her a beam of light to help her light up her life. So, in the next life, she wants to do her best to become a person like Yi Tian. After casting the flying sword fragments, the speed of the flying sword has been greatly improved. Moreover, the mana is more channeled, and the flying time of the royal sword can be longer. At the same time, Yi Tian, who is walking on the sky with his sword, looks at the white clouds around him, and his heart is filled with emotion. This visit to Annam town, his harvest is too rich. Not only did he get the cicada slew of Kongming cicada, but also he could refine the nirvana pill. When his cultivation was stable, he could break through the 8 levels of the cave. Moreover, he also got the fragments of the flying sword of Bangxianbing, which successfully promoted the fierce flying sword to the level of magic weapon. His speed and power were greatly improved. In this way, when he meets those who come and fights with them in the future, his chances of winning will be increased by several %. Yi Tian tried his best to run the flying sword. After flying 500 or 600 miles, he pressed the flying sword and landed in a suburb adjacent to the city. After landing, Yi Tianchao looked around, and then walked from the field to the next national road, ready to follow the road, enter the city, and then buy a ticket to turn back to the South China Sea. But not long after he walked forward, he suddenly saw a business car coming along the end of the road. Why is she? When Yi Tian saw the half-open window in the back of the business car, he could not help looking at the side face of the field. This delicate side face is not as cold as jade, and which one can it be? However, Yi Tian didn't expect to see Lang Ruyu here. Just as he was about to reach out and stop the car to ask Lang Ruyu why she had come here, he saw the business car carrying Lang Ruyu turning suddenly and driving along a path to a small village deep in the field. What's this woman doing in such a small village from Nanhai? Xin Hao can't help but pick his eyebrows. He can't help but feel confused. But he's not a gossip. What's more, as he just saw, except for the driver, Lang Ruyu is the only one in the car. This also means that Lang Ruyu's job here should be something more private and he doesn't want to be known by others, so he shakes his head, be prepared to leave these doubts behind and continue to the city. But at this time, he saw that just as the business car drove into the village, along the end of the road ahead, there came another golden cup. The car was full. Moreover, most of these people had a bad look on their faces. At first sight, they were not good people. What's more, the golden cup turned around in the direction of Lang Ruyu's business car, and also drove towards the village. What's going on? Yi Tian saw this, and his brow turned into a big knot in one's heart. He is very clear about Lang Ruyu's character. He knows that she is definitely not the kind of person who will make use of the guy in the golden cup car to satisfy his own purpose. In this way, it means that these people in the car are probably going for Lang Ruyu. Although he is not a gossip, he is not a person who looks at others who may fall into danger but does not help them.
Needless to say, Lang Ruyu is still the best friend of Ning Shui and Qin Luotian, so he can't sit back and ignore him. Thinking of this, Yi Tian immediately follows the car and goes to the village nearby.
He wants to see what happened to Lang Ruyu.
A moment later, Yi Tian arrived at the gate of the village.
As I said, the only thing I can give you is this 500,000 yuan. If you are too little, then you don't even have it.
Besides, I warn you not to harass Yeye anymore, otherwise, I'll call the police and catch you in jail.
As soon as he reached the village gate, Yi Tian heard the angry voice of Lang Ruyu coming from the village.
You know, Lang Ruyu has always been as cold as ice, and her anger is not in color. Now, if you can make her angry like this, you can see that the other party has stepped on her bottom line. Moreover, from this sentence, Yi Tian also judged that this matter seems to have something to do with Lang Yue.
But in this case, I can understand why Lang Ruyu is so angry at the moment.
After all, after what he had done for Lang Yue before, he could see that although Lang Yue was not Lang Ruyu's own daughter, Lang Ruyu still valued her more than her eyes. If anyone dares to do something to Lang Yue, Lang Ruyu absolutely dares to fight with those people.
Call the police? Ha ha ha, don't laugh. We are Yeye's biological parents. It's natural for parents to go to see their children.
Even if you call the police, it's useless.
The police won't care. Moreover, if you dare to call the police, I dare say that you are abducting and trafficking in children.
As soon as Lang Ruyu's words fell, a female voice with a broken gong voice began to ring. In her voice, she swaggered with a kind of pride and arrogance.
Yes, we are Yeye's parents. What kind of thing are you? Will the police help you? I tell you, if you don't want us to see the moon, it's easy. Give us 1 million, no, 2 million.
Then we will promise that we will never care, and we will assume that we haven't given birth to this daughter. As soon as the female voice fell, a similarly rude and unreasonable male voice began to ring.
Lang Yue's biological parents? Yi Tian hears the sound and moves his eyes.
He has a general understanding of the truth.
I'm afraid it's Lang Yue's parents. I don't know how to know that Lang Ruyu adopted Lang Yue.
Then they come to her door and are ready to blackmail her. After giving birth to a child, he abandoned it and ignored it. Now when he heard that his daughter was adopted by a rich man, he regarded himself as his own parents. This kind of person, let alone unworthy of being a parent, simply unworthy of being a human being.
You dream. Lang Ruyu was obviously enraged by the other party's unbridled and arrogant attitude.
She bit her teeth.
Dream? Haha, if you don't believe it, let's try.
I'll see if it's your biological parents or your unmarried foster mother with a child.
We have inquired about it.
As long as we give a monthly report that someone has been abducted and sold, you will have to return the child if you are not reconciled. Lang Yue's biological mother immediately sneered at this, and her face was unbridled.
Yes, isn't that big girl worth 2 million? Moreover, we have already inquired about your business in the South China Sea.
It's very big, let alone a mere 2 million.
Even if it's 20 million, you can take it out.
Let's just say, you can either give the money or pay back the moon. Lang Yu's own father is also with the help, constantly threatening Lang Ruyu.
Don't dream.
I'll see you in court. I want to see if justice in the world is on your side or on my side. Lang Ruyu breathed heavily. After a long time, Lang Ling dropped a sentence and then said to the driver, "Let's go." She is very clear that people's desires are hard to be reconciled. At the beginning, when the couple came to the door, they just asked her for 100,000 yuan. Now, she regrets that she gave them the money in order to keep them away from the cold moon. It was the success that made them feel that they could get more money from here, and their appetite became bigger and bigger. From then on, when they were short of money, they called themselves, and now the lion opened his mouth, and his mouth was 2 million, which completely proved that no matter how much money they gave, they could not be satisfied. Even if they really take out 2 million, next time, they will dare to ask themselves for 5 million, 10 million, or even more.
Want to go? You don't want to leave until you give up your money today.
But without waiting for Lang Ruyu to act, Lang Yue's biological mother, with a loud drink, immediately rushed in and surrounded Lang Ruyu in a semicircle, with her hands on her chest and her face full of lust and ferocity.
What do you want to do?
Lang Ruyu saw this, and he stepped back with a sudden chill in his heart.
There was more uneasiness and trembling in his voice.
Now, she has a feeling that her intestines are almost blue. If she had known that such a situation would happen, she would never have come here with only one driver. However, when she received a phone call from the couple saying that she wanted to make an end with her about the custody of Ling Yue, she was so anxious that she didn't think so much about it, so she came directly. Now think about it, the couple obviously deliberately deceived her. As for the purpose, it's very simple, that is, if they can't coerce her, they use violence and force her to ask for it.
What are you doing? We don't do anything.
I just heard that our little niece Yaya is now in a rich family, so she wants to get some light from her and ask the people who support her to borrow some money. The strong man, who is the leader, looks at Ling Ruyu and smiles.
Do you know that it is against the law for you to do so? If I call the police, all of you will go to jail.
Lang Ruyu's eyes changed. She felt out her cell phone and said in a deep voice. However, although she tried to keep calm, she was very flustered and her voice trembled. Although she is a strong woman in the business world, she is just used to the fighting in the shopping malls, or has she ever seen such a battle?
Breaking the law?
Then you call the police and see if you can keep me for several years. When I come out, the first thing is to go to Nanhai and talk to my little niece. The leader of the strong man, hearing Lang Ruyu's words, shrugged his shoulders and said with a smile. That look, at first glance, is that kind of cheap old man.
Talk to Lang Yue?
When Lang Ruyu heard this, her heart sank suddenly, holding her mobile phone and slowly drooping down. She is not a fool, how can not know, this guy's mouth talk is hidden what evil?
Lang Yue finally gets rid of Sha Zheng's intrusion because of Yi Tian's help. If anything happens again, she really can't live.
Tut tut, why don't you plan to call the police? The leading man, seeing that Yao Bing had taken effect, sneered at Lang Ruyu twice, and then mocked, I can't see that your adoptive mother cares more about her adopted daughter than her own parents.
Come on, what do you want? Let's make it a condition. I have only one request. After taking the money, you must never appear in front of Ye again.
Lang Ruyu looked indifferently at the strong man who was the leader and said in a deep voice.
We want 200 no, 5 million.
When Lang Yue's father heard this, he turned his eyes and immediately put up 2 fingers, but then he turned his words and put up 5 fingers. Yes, as long as you are willing to give 5 million yuan, we promise that from now on, we will never appear in front of Ye again, and we can write a letter of guarantee with you.
Lang Yue's biological mother is also in a hurry.
Well, that's settled. You will issue me a letter of guarantee, stating that you abandoned Ye and put her on the street, and promise to voluntarily give up custody and no longer visit Ye. As long as you can do it, I'll give you 5 million yuan, but this is the last sum of money I give you.
If you dare to harass us again, don't blame me.
You may not know how terrible it would be to push a mother. Lang Ruyu's eyes changed. At last, she clenched her teeth and said in a deep voice. She knew that it would be difficult to do well if the things today did not satisfy the appetites of these people. Of course, 5 million yuan is more than 5 million yuan, but for her, it is not as good as Ling Yue's hair. As long as these guys can keep their word, they will not harass Ling Yue anymore from now on.
The 5 million yuan she spent is worth it. It's a deal. You gave me the money, and we'll write you a guarantee right away. Admit that we abandoned Ye and would give up custody of Ye.
Ling Yue's parents smell speech, look at each other, face immediately show the color of ecstasy, Busy repeatedly nodded.
Wait.
But at this time, the leading man suddenly raised his hand, interrupted both sides, looked at Lang Ruyu with a smile, and said, Beauty, you like children so much, why don't you have one yourself?
Have to adopt one? Isn't your own child more fragrant than an adopted one?
It's my choice, you don't care. Cold as jade, coldly interrupted the strong man's words, light way.
Oh, I can't see it. It's fierce enough. It's still a little rose with thorns.
Hearing this, the leading man picked his eyebrows and gave a smile. Immediately, his eyes wandered back and forth on Lang Ruyu. After swallowing his saliva, he said with a grim smile, I really can't control your choice, but I can help you. You like children so much. Well, in addition to the 5 million,
you can accompany me and my brothers to sleep. We can help you have a child for free. You. When Long Ruyu heard this, two groups of anger immediately rose in her eyes. She could not help but raise her hand to slap this guy. Tut tut, I look at you coldly. I don't know if your temper is so hot. When you are in bed, are you angry or not? But it's a pity that Long Ruyu is not the opponent of the other party. As soon as her hand is raised, she is pinched by the strong man. After she can't move, she continues to smile. You let go. I warn you, don't mess around, otherwise, I really called the police. Long Ruyu struggles hard, but she can't get rid of it. Looking at each other's eyes, she feels a touch of fear and says in an urgent voice. If you dare to call the police, I dare to wait and find Yaya's niece. Hello, I'd like to make it clear whether you're going to accompany me or my little niece is going to accompany me. The leading strong man, with a sneer, looks at Long Ruyu's pretty cheek and says ferociously. Every month cold as jade. Hearing the sound, the heart suddenly clattered, gnashing teeth, but there was nothing to do. She knew that this kind of scum would really do things worse than pigs and dogs. President Lang, do you have a clear idea? Are you here to accompany me? Or should I go to Nanhai in person and find Yaya's niece to accompany me? The leader looks at Long Ruyu and knows that he has grasped her weakness. The smile on his face immediately becomes more ferocious. Long Ruyu listened to this sound, only felt that her body was about to fall into the ice cellar, and felt a kind of terrible cold. At this moment, she regretted to the extreme. She shouldn't underestimate the evil in people's heart, and she shouldn't come here alone with a driver and end up being coerced. After all, she's not like Tian. She can be 100 strong. Mr. Lang, run! At this time, the driver with Long Ruyu jumped up and hit the leader on the head, then drank to Long Ruyu. What's more, I'm afraid you're not ready to play hero saving game with me. But without waiting for Long Ruyu to act, the leader suddenly raised his foot, kicked the driver in the stomach, kicked him to the ground, held his stomach and howled miserably, glanced at several gangsters around, and sneered, "This boy is not bloody. He loves to show off his ability. Help him release blood, and see if his blood is enough. Hey, boy, if you dare to fight Brother Xiong, you really don't know what to do. I'm afraid you don't know. Brother Xiong is an old man, but he has blood on his hand. Pretend to be a hero, show off your ability, and clean up the things that can't kill you, son of a bitch." As soon as the words fell, several gangsters immediately took out the spring knife from their pockets, waved it in their hands and surrounded the driver. That bright blade, just to see, it makes people feel flustered and uneasy. The driver, who was pale because of eating pain, lost his blood color completely at the moment. Stop it! But at this time, Long Ruyu's eyes changed. If she had made any decision, she pursed her lips and looked at the strong man who was the leader. She said, "Do you let him go if I agree to your terms?" All these things are due to her own. She is not willing to drag down the driver, let him be foolproof. Of course, I always mean what I say. What, you've got it all figured out now? Brother Xiong nodded with a smile and looked at Long Ruyu playfully. He enjoyed the cold beauty and the feeling of being coerced by himself. And he thought that before long, this cold and delicate beauty would have to entertain herself gently. He even felt that his blood was boiling, and he was bubbling in his heart. Let him go, I promise you, the money and the people are yours. Cold as jade, indifference away. Everything can't be avoided, so she has the right to think that she was bitten by a dog. But although she looks indifferent, but in her heart, there is a kind of desolation and helplessness, and it is also an incomparable desire. At this time, like in the movie, there is a big hero, stepping on the 7 colors of auspicious clouds, coming down from the sky to save her from fire and water. But unfortunately, she also knows that this idea is doomed to be futile. In this world, there are so many heroes who fall from the sky. Tie him aside. Let me go when I'm done. At this time, Brother Xiong waved his hand to the boys and tied the driver aside. Immediately, he said to Long Ruyu with a grim smile, "President Long, let's go." Long Ruyu clenches her lower lip and stares at Brother Xiong's eyes. After watching for a long time, she finally closes her eyes in humiliation, raises her hand and touches the collar button. She has a habit of cleanliness, not only in her body,
but also in her heart. Thinking of the tragedy she will face soon, she has a feeling of madness. At this moment, her desire for salvation suddenly became more urgent. But what she knows better is that those yearnings and hopes are all her own dreams.
A tragedy has been doomed. No matter who it is, it can't be changed. Open your eyes and look at me. Who told you to close your eyes? Open them. Do you think I'm not good enough for you?
But just at this time, Brother Xiong's face showed displeasure and looked at Lang Ruyu.
He was threatened by the cold voice. Lang Ruyu clenched her teeth.
After a long time, she slowly opened her eyes. However, when her eyelids opened, along the corner of her eyes, there was crystal clear dripping, which was humiliating and unfortunate tears.
Ha ha ha. Brother Xiong is laughing.
The colder the jade is, the more satisfied he is with the beast in his heart.
President Lang, you are also a famous strong woman in Nanhai City. You are a good hand in the shopping mall. How can you have such a big loss today? Not only money but also people.
When I helped you, I should have learned this method. But at this moment, outside the hospital, with the help of the eyes and superhearing, I can't help watching all Yi Tian inside. I can't help but stand up, hold my hand, float like a feather blown by the wind and cross the wall. After standing on the ground, I look at Lang Ruyu and say with a smile, all of a sudden, resounding around, suddenly, like a terrible storm, swept the field.
Who is this guy? When did he start standing outside? Who is he?
Brother Xiang's younger brothers, when they saw Yi Tian, immediately turned chilly and stepped back 2 steps involuntarily. This village is very desolate, except for some old people who usually stay at home. There are few young people, which is one of the reasons why they choose to threaten Lang Ruyu here. But now, Yi Tian has been standing outside the door for such a long time, and they have no idea.
How can they not be surprised? Yi Tian.
Lang Ruyu heard this, and then saw the banter smile on the corner of Yi Tian's mouth. The whole person was stunned, and felt like a dream. She had just thought of Yi Tian, and felt that if she could be as strong as Yi Tian, she would not be afraid of everything in front of her. But she really didn't expect, oneself just think so but Leaf Day, unexpectedly really appeared in front of eyes. Although he did not step on the 5 colors of auspicious clouds, there is no doubt that he is a hero who will be able to save himself and his life.
Why, boy, you have enough blood to help her out? Brother Xiong was stunned. Looking at Yi Tian, he sneered. What's the matter? What's your opinion?
The Leaf Day playfully shrugged, looking at elder Brother Xiong, light way.
Get him.
Brother Xiong looks at Yi Tian's indifferent face, and then thinks of the rising interest. He is completely destroyed by Yi Tian, and his face is covered with frost. With a wave of his hand, he shouts out to those little brothers. A language falls, around those younger brothers, immediately brandish the spring knife in the hand, pounce onto the Leaf Day, want to open a knife to see blood for him.
It's naive of you to play in front of me. Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and gave a faint smile. He didn't talk to these people at all.
With his hand raised, a wind blade swept across, with a terrible cold breath, and fell on the wrists of the gangsters holding the knives. With a wisp of blood, he immediately dropped the spring knife to the ground, making a clang sound. Blood splashed everywhere, howling everywhere. A second ago, a group of younger brothers, who looked fierce, collapsed to the ground in the blink of an eye, covered their wrists, and blood flowed.
Are you a human, a ghost, or something? Brother Xiong looked at the scene with astonishment. He was almost petrified.
His eyes were full of wonder and confusion. He only saw that Yi Tian's hand was so gently raised that he didn't even see a little cold light, and he didn't see anything. His younger brothers all fell to the ground with blood streaming all over the ground. This scene, treacherous to the point of no more, it seems, just like the arrival of unpredictable ghosts.
What are you doing?
Just now you touched Lang Ruyu with this hand. She has a habit of cleanliness and doesn't like to get dirty things.
In this case, don't take your hand.
Immediately, Yi Tian's hand gently raised, a blade of wind swept out again and landed on Brother Xiong's wrist.
Whoa! The strong wind swept and suddenly fell.
In an instant, Brother Xiong only felt his wrist cool. Immediately, a bloodline spread out.
In the moment when the wind blew, the hand broke and fell to the ground.
Brother Xiong was staring at his bloody wrist. After a long time, the terrible pain spread all over his body. Holding his wrist, he squatted on the ground and made a series of howls like killing a pig.
It's not just Brother Xiong. Lang Ruyu is also stunned at the moment.
She looks at the scene in front of her. Her body shudders and feels like a dream. Even she, also really didn't expect Leaf Day appear to now, just a few breath of time, unexpectedly will these aggressive guy, all eliminate.
What is powerful? There is no doubt that it is powerful. Well, I'm satisfied with this treatment. Is it worth 5 million?
Yi Tian glances at Brother Xiong, then turns to look at Lang Ruyu and smiles.
I'll give you 10 million.
Cold as jade smell sound, this just like the beginning of a dream wake up, looking at Yi Tian smile way.
Bang!
After that, Lang Ruyu clenched her lower lip and strode to Brother Xiong. She suddenly raised her foot and stepped heavily between Brother Xiong's legs. From birth to now, she has never hated a person as much as Brother Xiong. She knew that if Yi Tian didn't appear in time and fall from the sky, I'm afraid that now I would fall into the abyss and be desecrated by this disgusting guy. The thought of what she had just done to herself made her angry.
Pa Ji. This foot was extremely powerful.
At the moment of falling, there was a fierce sound of chicken flying eggs between Brother Xiong's legs. Immediately after that, Brother Xiong, who was originally howling like a pig, immediately bowed his body like a cooked prawn, his face turned blue-white, his forehead was sweating, and his mouth was open like a fish out of the water, but he couldn't make a sound the sound of half a millimeter.
Hiss! In this scene, even Yi Tian, an outsider, shivered and gasped. He really did not expect that Lang Ruyu had such a fierce side.
However, it's no surprise that Lang Ruyu can do what Brother Xiong wants to do to her just now.
You too, what do you want? You're the one who recruited me. Now that something's wrong, I don't care. Are you ready to leave?
At this time, Yi Tian heard the rustle coming from the side, turned to see, and immediately found that Ling Yue's parents, at this moment, were on tiptoe, carefully preparing to leave.
Please, let us go, we swear, today's things, we will do nothing to see, and from now on, never entangle the moon.
Just be swept by Yi Tian's cold eyes. Not long ago, this pair of husband and wife, who are also arrogant to be invincible, immediately excite Ling Ling to shiver, involuntarily, kneel to the ground, looking at Yi Tian, force out a flattering smile, plead repeatedly.
Nothing? Are you too blind?
But I think your eyes are very smart.
Let me help you blind thoroughly.
Yi Tian hears the sound, raises eyebrow light a smile, looking at these two people, pondering jokingly way.
Please, spare us. We really dare not.
The couple heard Yi Tian's words, in a flash, their courage was about to break. They were cold and sweaty, and their bodies were even more like swinging.
They were trembling and pleading.
In the voice of words, they brought a kind of crying cavity. They know that Yi Tiangong's actions in dealing with Brother Xiong and his subordinates show that he is not just talking about it, but really has the strength and courage to turn them into blind easily.
They haven't seen enough of the colorful world yet.
How can they become blind people who are only black in front of their eyes from now on? Mr. Lang, please, help us both beg for mercy.
Anyway, we are both Yeya's biological parents. She certainly doesn't want to see us become blind.
Immediately after that, they turned their heads and looked at Lang Ruyu, with a runny nose and a tearful cry. When you ask for money, when you ask for mercy, you too remember that you are Yeya's biological parents. At the beginning, when you abandoned her on the street in the cold winter and let a child who was only a few months old wear single clothes and howl on the street, why didn't you think it was her biological parents? Cold as jade hears sound, frost color is rich on the face, looking at these two people, the angry voice quality of a word asks away.
Lang Yue was found by Lang Ruyu on the street.
Moreover, in the cold winter, Lang Yue, who was only a few months old, was still wearing a single clothes. When Yi Tian heard this, he was stunned and immediately looked into the eyes of the couple. He thought the couple were just greedy, but now it seems that they are not only greedy, but also vicious. It's not abandonment, but naked murder to leave a few-month-old child in a single clothes on the street in the cold winter. If it was not for Lang Yu's luck, she would have been a dead baby when she met Leng Ruyu. This couple has done such vicious and cruel things.
After many years, they still have the courage to show up in front of Leng Yu and ask Leng Ruyu for benefits.
It can be seen that this pair of garbage is not only cruel and vicious, but also shameless to the extreme. This kind of rubbish, if it's so light, it's too cheap for them.
Before, I pitied you. I thought you and Yaya's blood were thicker than water, so I gave you some benefits.
But I didn't expect that you two were so greedy and had a growing appetite, and even did such despicable things to me.
Leng Ruyu's face was as cold as frost. Looking at the couple, she said coldly, "Now, do you think it's possible for me to forgive you?" I'm sorry, we're wrong. We really know we're wrong. We are willing to return the money to you, but we have used up part of it. Now there is only about 50,000 left. We will give you an IOU, and then we will slowly give you the rest of the money. Hearing the news, the couple kowtowed to Leng Ruyu in a hurry.
Their whole body was almost wet with sweat, hoping to get her forgiveness.
50,000 Leng Ruyu hears the sound and looks at the couple in astonishment.
The color of sneer on her face becomes more and more intense. You know, she has given nearly $1 million to these couples. For most ordinary people, such a lot of money is enough to spend a long time, but the two of them, in such a short period of time, even squander it. It's no wonder that this time, they will make such a big opening and set up such a bureau. Similarly, there is no doubt that if Tian did not appear, if they really succeed this time, I'm afraid, they will still not stop.
Soon, they will come again. If you do something wrong, you have to pay what you deserve. You too, decide for yourself which hand you want to keep.
Tian listens to these words and shakes her head to Leng Ruyu, indicating that she stands behind her.
Immediately, she looks at the couple and says faintly,
"To deal with this kind of villain, we should use Thunderbolt means to make an effective deterrent."
As Leng Ruyu had done before, it would only allow them to make more excessive efforts. Please, don't. We know it's wrong. We dare not.
I swear, I'll write a IOU, and I'll pay you back the money according to the fingerprints.
The couple kept praying and were as scared as chaff. Since you two don't want to, I'll have to help you. When Tian hears the words, he smiles indifferently. Immediately, he gently swings his fingertips. 2 wind blades suddenly fly out and cut down.
Click click. Accompanied by 2 crisp sounds, along the wrists of the couple's right hands, there was a crisp sound immediately. Immediately, the blood was like a fountain, escaping outward, and the shrill howling sound of killing pigs was deafening and resounding all around.
I'll give you these 2 pigs' hooves free of charge. Tian looks at this scene indifferently, turns his head and looks at Leng Ruyu, joking. After hearing what the couple did to Leng Yue, he didn't regard them as human beings anymore.
Tiger poison still does not eat sun, but these 2 people, even their own children are not let go, that cruel evil, you can see.
Gudong. Leng Ruyu looked at the bloody scene, could not help but shudder. Gudong swallowed saliva.
She really did not expect that Tian's hand was so fierce, but she also understood that to deal with these 2 rogues, they had to use such cruel hands. They had to pay the price for murdering Leng Yue. Only in this way, these 2 rubbish, from now on, dare not pester her anymore.
Let's go.
At this time, Tian looks at all this indifferently, turns his head and looks at Leng Ruyu, calms down, and immediately turns to walk outside the hospital. In fact, at the beginning, he didn't intend to punish the 2 guys severely. He just wanted to punish them slightly so that they didn't dare to pester Leng Ruyu anymore. But he didn't expect that the couple were so vicious that they chose to abandon the cold moon in the cold winter and even just let her wear a single dress. What's the difference between treating a few-month-old child like this and animals? When dealing with such people, there is no need to be merciful.
One person has broken one hand because he does not want to be more bloody and take advantage of them.
Leng Ruyu is stunned and immediately follows Tian, just like a frightened child and a trusted adult.
Thank you, Tian.
Out of the courtyard, sit on the car, lean on the soft seat, breathing the fresh air outside, cold as jade, suddenly have a sense of survival, sincerely say to Tian. She can't imagine what will happen if Tian doesn't show up in time this time. I'm afraid that when she comes out of the yard again, she definitely doesn't feel like this.
Even this time, it's not too much to say that she was lucky. Don't mention it. I just happened to pass by. I saw you here, and there was a car behind. So I came to have a look. Tian smiles and shakes his head, and then tells him in a deep voice, you have to remember that if you meet such rubbish people again in the future, you should stay away from them. If someone dares to pester them, you should call the police. Don't go to the banquet alone. You are not Guan Eryi, and you don't have the ability to go to the party alone. Long Ruyu nodded in a hurry. This time, it really sounded the alarm for her, and made her realize that these things she did were too risky. In other words, she underestimated the evil in people's hearts, and thought that everyone was like him. It may be impossible to have the heart of harming others, but it is also necessary to have the heart of defending others. Otherwise, it may be necessary to repeat today's mistakes again. At that time, he may not have such good luck to meet Yi Tian. 10 million, I'll give it to you when I get back to Nanhai. Immediately after, Long Ruyu looks at Yi Tian in a hurry and says sincerely to him. Haha, no, I'm just joking. Take the money and buy toys for Xiao Ye. Yi Tian heard the sound, waved his big hand and said with a smile. Now, the most important thing he needs is money. It's 10 million more or 10 million less, and it won't make the number on the account 0 more or 0 less. Moreover, when he helped Lang Ruyu, he didn't think about asking her for money. How can we? Long Ruyu shook her head and said firmly. Do you think I'm short of money? Yi Tian raises eyebrow to smile lightly, looking at Long Ruyu, smilingly way. Cold as jade, hearing the sound, the whole person immediately became silent, and immediately shook his head with a bitter smile. She is Ning Shue's best friend. She naturally knows better than anyone how much she can make money from the business of Shueji Gao. Moreover, she knows better that although Ning Shui is in front of the stage, in fact, Yi Tian Kai is the big boss of Shueji Gao. He pays a lot of dividends and goes to Yi Tian's bank card every day. 10 million, this number is really big, but I can't see Yi Tian's eyes. All this, let her can't help but recall, Ning Shui once told her, and Yi Tian first met when the scene, at that time, the young man around, even in the stall selling amulets, and, an amulet, also just received Ning Shui 5,000 yuan. Now, Yi Tian's amulet, let alone 5,000 yuan, can't be bought even 50,000 yuan. It's only possible to add a few zeros at the back. All the past and all the present make people feel like a dream. Let alone her, she thinks that even Ning Shui can't imagine that the young man who set up a stall to sell amulets at the beginning can go to the astonishing point that today 10 million is nothing. Mr. Yi, Mr. Lang, another car is coming in front of us. At this time, the driver in the front row, his face showing nervous color, turned his head and looked at Lang Ruyu and Yi Tian, nervous. Hearing the sound, Yi Tian immediately sweeps forward. His eyes pass by. He immediately sees that a Mercedes-Benz business car is winding along the path. In such a village, it is obvious that no one can afford to drive a Mercedes-Benz business car. The only explanation is that the car is driven as cold as jade. Did you tell anyone else about your coming here? Seeing this, Yi Tian turns to look at Lang Ruyu and asks in a deep voice. I didn't tell anyone. Lang Ruyu shook her head without thinking and said in a deep voice. As she said, in order to protect Lan Yeye from being abandoned, she always abides by the secret of meeting Lan Yeye's parents in this village. She even told the driver about her specific itinerary before she set out, and did not tell him what she wanted to do here. She also does not understand, now how can suddenly appear such a Mercedes-Benz business? Just wait. No matter who is on the bus or why, when he arrives, it will be clear. Yi Tian smell speech, eyebrow also can't help ring into a knot in one's heart, at will after swinging a hand, light way. Lang Ruyu nodded, and Yi Tian was by his side. No matter who was good or who was bad, he didn't need to worry about fear. Creak. At this time, the Mercedes-Benz business car had already come. When it came to the back of the cold business car, it stopped and followed. Several young people in black suits immediately ran down from the car, opened the door, guarded a young man and walked down from the car. Like jade. After getting out of the car, the young man tidied up his suit and strode to the yard. But when he was halfway there, he was surprised to see the cold jade in the business car.
The eyes, full of consternation and confusion, just as he did not expect, also completely unable to figure out, Lang Ruyu how can sit here without damage.
It's you.
Lang Ruyu was stunned at the sound, and immediately covered his face with frost.
He looked at the driver and said in a deep voice, "Let's go."
Wait a minute. Seeing this, the young man quickly stretched out his hand, held the door, looked at Lang Ruyu, and said with a smile, "Ruyu, you haven't met your old friends for so many years.
Once you meet them, you are going to leave. Isn't it too unkind?
I have no friendship with you, let alone your old friend."
Lang Ruyu looked indifferent and left a sentence coldly.
In her tone, she said to the driver, "Drive now. If he is willing to pull the car, let him fall down."
Boom!
The driver heard the speech and started the car in a hurry. With a shaking, he was ready to step on the accelerator.
Can't you hear Koen say he won't let go?
But just then, a black bodyguard standing behind the young man took a gun out of his back and pointed it at the driver in the driver's seat. That tone, cold and piercing, as long as the driver dare to move, he will pull the trigger mercilessly.
Su Koen, do you think it's fun to do this?
Lang Ruyu raised her hand to let the driver stop driving. She looked at the young man and said coldly,
"You remember my name, Ruyu?"
When Su Koen heard Lang Ruyu's words, he shrugged his shoulders at random, and then laughed. "I just heard your words. I thought our 5-year love was in vain. You have forgotten the name of my first love boyfriend."
5 years of love? Tian can't help but gently raise his eyebrows when he hears the news.
He didn't expect that Lang Ruyu, a big iceberg, would fall in love with someone for such a long time. 5 years of love, my first boyfriend, but immediately, Tian's heart suddenly moves. Can't help but think of a paragraph of words Ning Shui had said to him before, she said, "Before cold as jade, is not like this now." All this, combined, let Tian suddenly feel, cold as jade now abnormal, perhaps, and in front of this Su Koen. Especially, when he thought of Lang Ruyu's love for Lang Ye and her special situation, he felt that everything became more clear.
Su Koen, what happened in those years is over. There is no relationship between you and me now.
Lang Ruyu said coldly, and then said in a deep voice, "However, compared with mentioning those things again, I am very curious about why you are here. Her coming to the village is very secret, and no one knows about it at all."
But now Su Koen suddenly appears.
Not only that, his appearance is different from that of Tian. It's not a coincidence, but he directly rushes here, which makes her curious.
Who is this? Su Koen didn't answer Lang Ruyu's words.
After glancing at the business car, his eyes fell on Tian and said with a playful smile, "He's my boyfriend now."
What's the matter? Do you have any opinion?
Cold such as jade Kame, closely followed, tightly grasped the Leaf Day's arm, moreover, was a face to take to beg of see Leaf Day one eye. It seems that Lang Ruyu did not like her performance, has put down that period of 5 years.
Tian can feel it.
Lang Ruyu is holding his 2 hands. At this moment, he is trembling slightly. All this showed that although she tried to keep calm on her face, her heart, I'm afraid, was not like this, but set off waves.
Boyfriends? Why didn't I hear that?
When Su Koen heard Lang Ruyu's words, he raised his eyebrows gently and continued to ponder and smile. "Ruyu, your boyfriend, can't you just confirm the love relationship with you?" Cold as jade, hearing the sound, a face immediately became a little pale. "I didn't expect that after breaking up for so many years, you still care about our family, Ruyu. You even know whether she has a boyfriend recently. However, it's no wonder that our family Ruyu is so charming." Seeing this, Tian raised his eyebrows and gently laughed, pondered over it, and then said faintly, "However, whether we were together a long time ago or now, as long as we have established a love relationship, it is a man and woman friend.
Now, I only regret one thing. I didn't meet her earlier.
In this way, I can take good care of her, so that she won't waste precious time on some unimportant rubbish."
Who do you call a garbage man?
Su Koen hears the sound, the facial expression immediately sinks down, a pair of eyes, gloomy stare at Tian, full of displeasure. "Things that don't matter to you are not rubbish. Are they still treasures?" Tian just like can't see the kind of displeasure in his eyes, shrugged, smile still way. Hearing this, Su Koen's face suddenly darkens. He looks at Yi Tian with extreme displeasure. Deep in his eyes, he even reveals his murderous intention.
Kun Shao.
At this time, one of his bodyguards in black came out of the yard quickly, looked warily at Yi Tian and others, and then came to Su Kuan's ear and whispered.
A bunch of trash.
Su Kuan heard each other's words, angrily scolded, followed by, toward Yi Tian swept an eye, in the eyelight, unexpectedly revealed a touch of shock and fear.
Those people, are you looking for?
Seeing Su Kuan's expression, Lang Ruyu suddenly realizes everything in her heart. She looks at Su Kuan in disbelief and asks coldly.
What do you think? Su Kuan is very single. He didn't deny it.
He nodded his head casually and said with a playful smile. A language falls, cold as jade eyes, immediately become more cold, that kind of chill, such as to freeze people into ice.
She said that after so many years, Ling Yue's parents suddenly came to her.
You know, the place where she found Ling Yue was far away from Jinling. Because she insisted on adopting Ling Yue, she came to Nanhai with Ling Yue after falling out with her family. These things, even within the family, only a few people know about them. But Ling Yue's parents, just two rural people without much energy, were able to find one on her head. It turns out that behind all this, Su Kuan is fueling the flames.
Of course, only Su Kuan has this energy.
She not only knows that she is in the South China Sea, but also can find Ling Yue's biological parents from the vast sea of people. Of course, compared with these, what shocked her even more was that Su Kuan's meaning was not only Ling Yue's biological parents, but also brother Xiong's group. Although her 5-year relationship ended in unhappiness, which made her black and blue, she did not expect that Su Kuan would treat her like this after many years. All these made her heart feel more angry and sad when it was as cold as ice, not to mention Lang Ruyu himself. Even Yi Tian was stunned for a while, and even couldn't help sympathizing with her. It's easy to imagine the pain of being treated so cruelly by the person you loved most in the past, even to destroy her completely.
Similarly, Su Kuan is really a beast. Before that, I gave you a choice.
Your family called you and asked you to be my lover, but you refused. You know my character and what I can't get, just destroy it.
No one else can get it.
There was no sympathy on Su Kuan's face. His smile was still bright, and he even shrugged casually.
His face didn't matter.
Who do you think I am, Lang Ruyu, and you want me to be your lover? Lang Ruyu's chest heaved violently, gnashing her teeth, roared one by one.
Wishful thinking? Su Kuan raised his eyebrows and said, if you don't want to be my lover, what would you like to be my wife? Do you deserve it?
Cold as jade, snow-white teeth, clenching lips, eyes are covered with blood. Oh, by the way, as Lang Ruyu's ex-boyfriend, or prospective fiancé, I need to remind you that when we were together, she had a physical examination, and she had no fertility.
Su Kuan didn't care about Lang Ruyu at all.
He just looked at Yi Tian in the car and said with a smile, this kind of woman who can't even lay eggs, do you think it's suitable to be a wife? By the way, don't tell me that if you want children, do you have a throne to inherit?
Yes, our family really has a throne to inherit.
Cold as jade, hearing the sound, the body trembled wildly, and the scalloped teeth had bitten the lips out of strands of bright red blood. Su Kuan said this thing is her biggest secret, but now, it was so naked tear in front of everyone.
Honey, I'm really curious. What's the matter with your eyes before?
In this world, there are so many people to like, but why do you want to find a boyfriend in the garbage? But at this time, Yi Tian shrugs with a smile, and then gently holds Lang Ruyu's hand. Just like Su Kuan's words, he asks with a smile. At this moment, he is really a little distressed, cold as jade. 5 years of love, there is no doubt that Lang Ruyu must have paid a lot, but she was abandoned because she was unable to have children. Moreover, after so many years, because she refused to be the other party's lover, she was retaliated by scum, which can't help but sympathize with her. In the same way, it is impossible for people not to sneer at Su Kuan. Want to have children, there is nothing wrong with this, feel that the other party cannot have children, so do not want to be together, then break up is. But on the one hand, because of these, I dislike the other side, and on the other hand, I want the other side to be my lover.
What is rubbish? Isn't that rubbish? What's the scum man? This is the scum man.
Yi Naivete is very curious, who gives this guy the courage to jump and shout here so rightfully?
Is it Liang Jingru? Who do you say is rubbish?
Su Koan heard Yi Tian's words, a face completely cooled down, gloomy as if to give birth to a layer of frost color, word by word. Yi Tian, this guy, is really too rude, repeatedly humiliate him, this kind of behavior, really make him can't accept.
Who else do you think I can say? Apart from you, who else can it be? Just like you mean to have children. Aren't you afraid of having children without chrysanthemums? If you want me to tell you, you don't have to worry about finding a baby.
Just go to a garbage dump and pick up a plastic bag to keep it.
Yi Tian smiles indifferently and looks at Su Koan, dismissing him.
This rubbish is the most that Yi Tian has ever seen. He has seen many people who can't pursue or hate because of love, but he has never seen Su Koan so dirty and shameless. I want to die. Su Koan clenched his teeth, followed closely, and winked at the black bodyguard. Boy, don't think you have some skills, just arrogantly think that no one in the world can do anything to you.
I tell you, no matter how strong you are, can you still be better than bullets?
Seeing this, the bodyguard in black looks at Yi Tian with a cold smile.
Without any hesitation, he raises his gun and aims at Yi Tian, then pulls the trigger. Bang!
In a flash, a clear shot suddenly rang out, followed by a group of dazzling sparks from the muzzle, a yellow bullet, whistling toward Yi Tian's head.
The terrible gunshot made Lang Ruyu's body tremble.
Her eyes were full of fear. Even at this moment, she didn't dare to turn her head to look at Yi Tian for fear of seeing the miserable picture of Yi Tian being shot and falling to the ground with blood all over the ground. After all, in the inherent cognition of ordinary people like her, no matter how strong a person is, he can't be better than a gun, especially the amazing speed of the bullet at close range, which can't be resisted at all.
Is the bullet the strongest?
Who gave you the courage to say that?
Is it also Liang Jingru? In the face of the roaring bullets, Yi Tian does not dodge. He smiles indifferently and grasps up lightly like a fly.
His movements were relaxed and casual, but after such a relaxed and casual movement, everyone thought that there would be a blood hole in his body and he fell to the ground, but it did not appear. Even the sound of the bullet falling to the ground did not appear.
What's the matter?
That black suit bodyguard, the whole person has been confused, looking at the gun in his hand. He just saw the flash of fire and the warhead flying out, but now, how could the warhead just disappear like evaporation out of thin air? Even he couldn't help looking at the ground to see if there was something wrong with the warhead, which lost its kinetic energy and turned into debris.
Don't look. I have the warhead.
But at this time, Yi Tian, indifferent smile, slowly spread out his hand. I saw, at this moment in his palm, there was a yellow warhead lying quietly, shining in the sunlight, and even there were traces of smoke on it. Compared with these, what is more frightening is that Yi Tian's palm is not only free of any blood stain, but also has no scratch on his skin. Hiss, this strange scene made the black suit bodyguard with a gun in his hand sweat like rain on his forehead. He was not only breathing cold air, but also shaking constantly. His eyes at Yi Tian changed from contempt at the beginning to an unpredictable ghost at the moment. Catch the bullet with your bare hands. If you didn't see such a thing with your own eyes, who can believe that this scene would be true?
Lang Ruyu is also silly. Others are empty-handed, but Yi Tian is so good that he is empty-handed. Mountain people. You are from the mountains. Not only the black suit bodyguard, but also Su Koan looks at Yi Tian in disbelief.
Not only that, at this moment, in his heart, there is a kind of chagrin and regret. If I had known that Lang Ruyu was surrounded by a man who was strong enough to catch bullets with his bare hands, even if I lent him another 100 courage, he would never dare to do such a thing.
Just now you gave me a bullet, now I give you a bullet, very fair. Yi Tian turns a deaf ear to Su Koan's words.
He just pinches the warhead in his hand. In an instant, the cylindrical warhead turns into a piece of round foil. With a flick of his finger, the foil attacks the black suit bodyguard.
Seeing this, the black suit bodyguard could not help but dodge to one side.
At the same time, he bent his fingers and pressed them to the trigger.
It's very unfair of you to shoot again.
Well, it's better than whether it's your bullet or my speed. Yi Tianmo light a lin, hand a shake, a wind blade whistling forward to fly out.
Hiss.
The speed of the wind blade was far faster than that metal foil. Before the finger of the black suit bodyguard fell on the trigger, the wind blade was near. At the moment of falling, the alloy pistol was cut in half with the speed visible to the naked eye. Not only the pistol, but also the hand of the black suit bodyguard was cut in half. The flat wound made him howl like a pig. At the same time, he finally understood why there was no sharp blade in the yard, but the wounds on Leng Yue's parents and brother Xiong were so smooth. However, he can't understand how Yi Tian did it. With a wave of his hand, there was such a terrible force that broke his pistol in hand. Poof! Then, the metal foil fell on the chest of the black suit bodyguard. Under Yi Tian's amazing power, the rotating metal foil, like a high-speed cutting machine, broke his clothes. In a moment, it penetrated his chest muscle, cut his bone and heart, and flew out from behind. Hiss! In a flash, blood like a fountain, along his chest and back, suddenly flew out, sprinkled on the ground, and his body, like a wall, fell to the ground. Until the moment of death, his eyes were wide open, still unable to understand, in this world, how can there be such an incredible strange thing? If you have a gun, you are invincible? It seems that even if Liang Jingru gives you courage, it can't change your life as a waste. Yi Tian meaninglessly looked at the black suit bodyguard, the corner of his mouth disdained, smile still. Although the goods are just a dog leg, as a dog leg, he dares to shoot because his master doesn't agree with him. It can be seen that his heart is vicious. It can also be seen that he always does this kind of bullying. Wheezing. Su Kuan looked at the scene in front of him. He gasped heavily, his eyes were wide open, and his hands were shaking wildly. He felt that he was going to be petrified. He always knew the existence of mountain people, and knew that mountain people were very strong, but he did not expect that Yi Tian, a mountain people, was so strong. If this is not powerful, there is nothing more powerful in this world. Tell me, how can I deal with you? He is just a dog, but you are the owner of the dog. Yi Tian Yang raised his eyebrows and looked at Su Kuan with a mocking smile. Aye. At this moment, Su Kuan had completely lost his previous arrogance and calmness. Looking at Yi Tian, he sweated his back. Finally, he suddenly bit his teeth and said, "You may not know that I have a good relationship with Qingming sect, especially with Master Li Shaozong." Ha, you have a good relationship with Qingmingzong? Why didn't you say that earlier? As soon as Yi Tian heard this, he immediately burst out laughing, reached out and took Su Kuan's shoulder. With a genial sentence, the tense color on Su Kuan's face suddenly dissipated. At the moment of a long sigh of relief, his words suddenly turned and he said with a smile, "Coincidentally, I have a grudge with Qingmingzong. If you had said that you had a good relationship with them, I would not waste so much words and kill you directly." Yi Tian and Qingmingzong have a grudge. When Su Kuan heard this, his body trembled. The smile on his face solidified in an instant. His legs were even more uncontrollable and crazy. There was a feeling that the bones melted, turned into noodles and fell to the ground. He thought that taking out Qingming sect, the first sect on the mountain, could hold Yi Tian, but he didn't hold Yi Tian, and even hit Yi Tian's muzzle. "I'm joking. I have a grudge against Qingming sect. I've been seeing their young master for a long time. If I have a chance, I'll kill him." After a long time, Su Kunqiang squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said in a trembling voice, "Ha, it's a coincidence. I'm joking. I'm the ancestor of Qingming sect. How can you say that you want to kill my disciples and grandchildren in front of me?" Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and a faint smile, looking at Su Kuan, playing with the taste. A word falls, Su Kuan completely speechless. He is not a fool, how can not hear, see Yi Tian's appearance, is determined not to let him go. However, he didn't know that Yi Tian's words were intended to tease him, but they were not completely regarded as. In a sense, he was indeed the ancestor of Qingming sect. However, the garbage of Qingming sect was all the garbage that deceived the master and killed the ancestor and needed him to clean up the door. "Ruyu, if he wants to kill me, I'll kill him, don't you mind?" Immediately after, Yi Tian turns to look at Leng Ruyu and says with a smile. That tone, understatement, like he is ready to crush a trivial mosquito. However, the reason why he didn't ask Leng Ruyu directly is to see if Leng Ruyu can let go of her old feelings.
Those who kill people will always be killed. Lang Ruyu shook her head and said one word at a time.
At this moment, she has seen the true face of Su Kuan clearly. It will make you feel sad to let such rubbish live in the world and breathe the same air as him. Ruyu, please help me beg for mercy.
Let me go. I still have you in my heart. I didn't want to hurt you. I just want them to scare you.
I swear, as long as you will let me go, no matter whether you will have children or not, I will marry you. When Su Kuan heard the sound, his head was buzzing. He almost collapsed on the ground and his legs were soft. After kneeling on the ground, he immediately knelt down and climbed to Lang Ruyu's body.
He repeatedly kowtowed and begged.
At this moment, for him, as long as he can survive, let alone let him marry Lang Ruyu, even let him take Lang Ruyu to his home and give it up as his aunt, he will not hesitate to do it.
Tut tut, you are so shameless. At this time, you are so happy to mention whether Ruyu can have a baby again. Do you think it's a very proud and boastful thing for you to make such a sacrifice?
Since you want children so much, find someone who can give you children.
Why bother Ruyu?
What? You still love Ruyu.
In my opinion, the person you love is just yourself. Love her, would you do that to her? When Yi Tian hears this, he laughs angrily. He looks at Su Kuan and shakes his head mockingly. As he said, from beginning to end, Su Kuan kept on talking about Lang Ruyu's inability to have children.
Even when he was begging for mercy, he was still mentioning it again. It seemed that under such circumstances, he could marry Lang Ruyu, which was a matter of great pride and even a kind of charity to Lang Ruyu. However, he did not realize that he was stabbing Lang Ruyu's heart.
Moreover, from the beginning, this guy made a mistake.
If he wants to have children, he should find someone who can have children. In this way, it may hurt Lang Ruyu, but it's nothing. After all, everyone has their own consideration. But this guy, while hoping to find a woman who can give birth to him, also hopes Lang Ruyu to be his lover.
It's a bit of a success.
Needless to say, after Lang Ruyu refused, he even planned to destroy Lang Ruyu without getting it.
Is such a person's love for Lang Ruyu really a kind of love? No, it's not love at all. It's not even abnormal love. In fact, this guy only loves himself. By the way, there's one more thing I want to tell you. Do you think Ruyu can't have a baby? You are wrong. Ruyu can have as many children as she wants to have with the people she likes. Closely following, Yi Tian looks down at Su Kuan, mocking. No way.
Hearing this, Su Kuan shakes his head and refuses to believe Yi Tian's words.
Lang Ruyu went to many hospitals to have an examination after she was checked and found that she was infertile.
Unfortunately, the doctors were at a loss to know what to do about her condition, and even could not say a specific reason. As for Lang Ruyu, after hearing Yi Tian's words, she also looks at him in a daze. In her eyes, there is not only confusion but also strong expectation.
Impossible?
Sorry, I came to this world, is to complete all the impossible things.
Including you. Before I do it, do you think that today, you will kneel down in front of the ground like Jade and cry to her? Yi Tian hears this, a smile indifferently, way. Su Kuan is completely silent and looks at Yi Tian in a dazed way.
As Yi Tian said, before he made these decisions, he did not expect that things would develop to today's situation. Take your despicable and shameless, get out of the world, go to hell, and keep company with those who are similar to you. At this time, Yi Tian had no idea to talk with him. With a slight hand, a blade of wind suddenly flew out and fell on Su Kuan's chest. Poof! In a flash, a group of blood, along Su Kuan's chest, splashed out, scattered all over the ground, such as blossoming snowplum, dazzling.
Disappear!
Next, Yi Tian's hand gently rubs, a huge fireball flies out, and turns Su Kuan and the black suit bodyguard's corpse into powder.
You, don't run. Stay here. Immediately after, Yi Tian sees that the remaining bodyguards in black suits are ready to flee.
He laughs and shakes his head. With a raise of his hand, the fireballs roar out and fall on these people, directly turning them into ashes.
If you can follow the scum like Su Kuan, you can imagine it even with your toes. It's definitely not a good thing. It's a disaster to keep them. It's better to kill them. I have cleaned up the rubbish that obstructs your life. From now on, you can be free.
All over, Tian turns his head and looks at Lang Ruyu, slowly. Lang Ruyu nodded, but at this moment, on her face, there was no relieved smile, only bitter tears covered her cheeks.
The trust is not human.
At this moment, she fully understood what these 4 words meant. In the past, she couldn't put Su Koan in her heart. She felt that if it wasn't for her body, maybe she and Su Koan could be a perfect couple. But after what happened today, she realized that even if it took 5 years, sometimes you can't recognize a jerk and scum. But there is no doubt that she also understands that from this moment on, she has completely cut off the connection with the past, and it will be a new life waiting for her. And this brand new life is given to her by Tian.
Let's go.
Immediately after, Tian sweeps his eyes at the driver who has completely looked silly, and says. When the driver heard this, he woke up. He could not help but nod his head, restart the car, hit the accelerator and drove out of the village. However, his eyes, but constantly with the help of the car rearview mirror, scan Tian's face. What he saw today was completely beyond his cognition. Tian's power made him feel like a god in the dust. He wanted to know if Tian was a kind of monster with a layer of human skin but a powerful monster hidden inside. You just said that you can help me solve the problem. Are you deceiving Su Koan, or is it true? At this time, Lang Ruyu finally wakes up completely, remembers the words Tian said before, and immediately reveals her uneasiness and hope, and slowly says.
Of course, it's true. The reason why you can't have children is very simple. Your constitution is too yin cold, and you lack pure yang. As long as you supplement pure yang and harmonize yin and yang, you can have children naturally. For other doctors, there may be no way to treat this disease, but for me, it's just a trivial problem. Tian nodded with a smile and said faintly.
When he saw Lang Ruyu for the first time, he found that Lang Ruyu's body was abnormal. However, Lang Ruyu's attitude was extremely bad at that time. At that time, his help was due to Lang Yue's pity and her love for Lang Yue. As for later, although the relationship between the two eased, Tian also forgot about it and didn't take it seriously, so he didn't mention it again.
Then can you help me? You can do whatever you want. As long as I can do it, I will try my best.
Cold as jade, smell sound, look suddenly become excited, looking at Tian, full face hope way. Unable to bear this matter, has become a knot in Lang Ruyu's heart, has had Lang Yue this lovely elf. She may not care about whether she will have children in the future, but she hopes that, at the beginning, let yourself hurt the culprit, can be eliminated.
Now that I've said that, I'm going to help you solve this problem. As for the reward, needless to say, I don't need money, and you can't get what I want. Tian nodded with a smile, then said casually.
As he said, all he needs now are cultivation resources. Lang Ruyu may be a strong woman, but where can he get these things?
Thank you, thank you.
Cold as jade, hearing the sound, her eyes immediately turned red, and she said thanks to Tian.
Take this elixir, but don't be in a hurry to take it now. You'd better take it after you get home.
Before taking it, you'd better put a bath of water and light some incense. Otherwise, with your character, I'm afraid that when the disease is cured, there will be more psychological shadows.
Tian waves his hand, indicating that Lang Ruyu doesn't need to be so nervous.
He takes out a Huangji pill and gives it to Lang Ruyu.
The reason why Lang Ruyu's body is yin cold is very simple.
It is because a meridian in her body is blocked, which leads to the circulation of yang qi in her body is not smooth, resulting in the situation of yin flourishing and yang declining. Huangji pill has the ability of cutting bones, washing marrow and opening channels. As long as Lang Ruyu takes Huangji pill, cuts bones and washes marrow, and stimulates the opening of that meridian. At that time, if he wants to have a few children, he can have a few children. As long as he finds someone he likes, even if he gives birth to a football team, it's nothing. But I have to remind you that after your constitution improves, you can have children, but you don't have to find someone you don't like to get pregnant. Closely following, leaf data cold such as jade exhort away.
Unable to conceive is Lang Ruyu's heart disease.
He is very worried that after her recovery, Lang Ruyu will find someone to fall in love and get married, and then have a baby. In that case, it's easy to encounter people who are not well behaved, and it's not easy to deal with them in case of any moth.
Long Ruyu clenched the jade bottle with Huang Jiden.
After nodding her head, her tears whirled.
She didn't know what to say.
At the beginning, she went to have a physical examination and found that she was not fertile, and the hospital had no way to do so. After calling Su Koan, he asked herself, what is the qualification of a woman who can't have children to be a wife for others, and then chose to abandon her? This kind of situation, and the contrast between the leaf day, should be a great disparity to the incomparable, in the end not. She originally thought that her next life was like this, but unexpectedly, Tian gave her real hope again.
What's the matter with you and Su Koan?
You've been together for 5 years, and you haven't found out what kind of person he is? Tian digs away from the topic and turns the matter to Su Koan, hoping that through this way of letting Lang Ruyu tell, she can completely open her heart and let this famous iceberg in the South China Sea fall apart and completely walk out of the shadow left by Su Koan.
Su Koan and I were classmates in high school. When we were in grade 1 in high school, we were together. After 3 years in high school, we had a very stable relationship. We agreed that we should go to the same university, go to graduate school with the same tutor, and choose to get married after graduation. Everything is very smooth, everything is very calm, even we don't even have occasional disputes, perfect like a dream. Whether we are high school students or college students, all think that we are standard model lovers. At that time, I always thought that my life might be so peaceful. He was the one I identified, the one who would spend the rest of my life with me. A lot of times, I was imagining what our wedding would be like, and even thinking about what our children would be like.
However, what I didn't expect was that when he graduated from university, he suddenly chose to give up and continue to study for postgraduate. Instead, he went back to work in his family's company. I made an agreement with him that no matter what I did, I would do it together. At that time, I felt that if I didn't go to graduate school with him, even if I went alone, it would be meaningless. Therefore, although I had been admitted at that time, I still chose to give up and graduate.
After graduation, we met our marriage.
Our parents had already met each other when they were in college, and everything came naturally.
It's just that what I didn't expect was that when I was doing the physical examination before marriage, I suddenly found out that I didn't have the ability to have children.
At the beginning, he accompanied me to many hospitals to comfort me. At that time, I was very grateful to him, and I increasingly believed that this man would be the man who would accompany me all my life. But one day, when we went to almost all the doctors and they were helpless, he began to change.
He went out to fool around and even showed up in front of me with other women. I questioned him. He said that a woman who can't lay eggs is qualified to question him? Then he abandoned me. In fact, I can understand all of these. After all, in the matter of children, one person has his own choice. Not everyone can do it without children.
But what I didn't expect was that after a period of time, he found me again and said he wanted to get back together with me, but one condition was that he had a child with a girl at that time and asked me to be his employer.
He and the girl did not interfere with each other.
I like him, but that doesn't mean that I can tolerate anything he does, especially if he asks me to do it, so I flatly refuse. After that, the two of us broke up completely. It was also from that time that I began to doubt myself. I felt that no one in the world was worthy of my nostalgia and dependence. I lived in the ice and made myself a piece of ice. What's more, I left the place where I used to live and came to Nanhai. The day after I arrived in Nanhai, I saw the cold moon shivering and crying in the cold wind on the street. I think that since I can't have a child, it may be a good choice for me to adopt a child, especially if this kind of abandoned child is taken care of by others. As for the rest, you should be very clear. I'd like to thank you for this. If it wasn't for you, I don't know what your era would be like now, and you saved my life and my family. At this moment, Lung Ruyu has completely put down her heart knot and whispered to Yi Tian, telling the truth of the past. Not only that, in her story, tears in the corner of her eyes have been wet. It seems to bear those hardships, all emerge on the mind. But Yi Tian can see that when she tells the truth hidden in her heart, the loneliness and loss on her face has obviously improved. At that time, I always refused people thousands of miles away. You helped, yeah, but my attitude towards you was still so bad. Now I think of it, it makes me feel ashamed.
I'm really sorry, and I really thank you. Yi Tian is as cold as jade.
After the silent film, he looks at Yi Tian, full of guilt and gratitude.
If you really want to thank me, promise me one thing. The past and the past are all empty.
From now on, be yourself, be as cold as jade, and smile more on your face. Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head.
He looks at Leng Ruyu and says slowly.
He knew that behind the coldness, there must be a cruel and bloody truth. But he did not expect that the truth should be so piercing. The person who has loved for 5 years is only one step away from entering the palace of marriage in the end. Even so, it is only after separation that we can see the true face of the person who loved so much and thought that we could spend the rest of our life together. And Yi Tian knows that, in fact, the biggest harm to Leng Ruyu is not that she can't have a child.
After all, this is not what she can decide.
Her body is given by her parents and her life is predestined by heaven. Even if Su Koan left her, it was not the biggest blow to her. After all, it was not a wrong thing for Su Koan to want children. What really hurt her was that Su Koan came to find a woman after she had a child, hoping that she could become his lover. This matter not only means that Su Koan betrayed the pregnant woman, but also let Leng Ruyu see Su Koan thoroughly, let her understand, from the beginning to the end, all wrong about this man, his dream, his pursuit, all wrong. This desolation is absolutely painful to the bone marrow. Similarly, it can't help changing people's temperament and making them cold as ice.
Laugh?
Leng Ruyu was stunned when she heard Yi Tian's words.
This simple thing is very far away for her now.
She can hardly remember how long it has been on her face. She has never seen such an expression. Take a look at the blue sky and white clouds outside. Think about the change of your physical condition, and then think about the moon.
Yi Tian smiles and continues to comfort Leng Ruyu.
He knew that Leng Ruyu's illness was a heart disease, which could be solved by more than one Huangji pill.
Only when she can laugh can she walk out of the haze and stand in the sunshine.
Leng Ruyu hears the sound, presses down the window, looks at the blue sky, white clouds and green trees outside, and reaches out his hand to catch the wisps of breeze brought by the vehicles passing through the vast fields.
In his mind, Lenji Yuyu calls her mommy and runs to her happily.
All this is so quiet, is so beautiful, no longer that scum and the devil. Suddenly, she felt that the muscles on her cheeks suddenly became sour. In a moment, a strange but familiar feeling suddenly appeared on her face. A smile suddenly appeared on her cheek. That smile, although it is only a shallow arc, but it is as beautiful as flowers. Even if Yi Tian see more beautiful women, can see the moment of this smile, the heart is still a sudden stagnation. He never thought that the smile as cold as jade could be so beautiful.
Leng always laughed.
The high temperature of the South China Sea can't melt the iceberg of 10,000 years. I'm laughing not to mention Yi Tian. Even the driver who looked at everything in the rear through the inside rearview mirror couldn't help but be stunned and almost suspected that he was hallucinating. Moreover, he believed that if other people heard about it, not only himself, he would also feel incredible.
Iceberg, even laugh.
And this smile is so beautiful. All this made the driver rub his eyes hard. He was afraid that what he saw was just a sudden illusion.
Bang dong. It was this distraction that the driver didn't pay attention to the stones on the road. When the fast-moving tire pressed the stones, it immediately brought a bump.
Zheng Zhen closed his eyes and quietly felt the cold, sour, and curved feeling of the muscles at the corners of his mouth. He also recovered and opened his eyes. In my opinion, you should laugh less in the future, otherwise, the probability of traffic accidents on the road will be doubled. Yi Tian looks at the cold jade who opens his eyes and jokes with a smile. Leng Ruyu's embarrassed face, but the smile at the corner of his mouth, at this moment, has become more brilliant. Just, her cheek, at this moment, more with a touch of red, deep in the eye, in addition to moving, but also a wisp of other feelings. Just now, she not only saw the blue sky and white clouds, but also recalled the cold moon waiting for her to go home. What's more, she finally settled in the scene that Yi Tianru did not step on the 7-color auspicious clouds, but still fell from the sky and appeared in front of him. At that moment, the peace of mind she had never experienced. At that moment, it was as if the sky star, which was not terrible, suddenly appeared in her palm. Even, suddenly, she began to doubt herself, doubt themselves, is really like Yi Tian.
Ding ling ling.
But just at this time, Yi Tian's mobile phone suddenly buzzed and vibrated.
Lu Zhendong's phone. It's the Lingchong ancestor from overseas Lingchong sect. He finally landed. Is there any news? Yi Tian saw the number displayed on the screen, thought in his heart, and immediately connected the phone.
Yi, what you asked me to look at has finally come to light. The old boy of Lingchong sect has received a text message.
Lingchong's ancestors have landed from the sea and come to the South China Sea. Moreover, I asked some of my younger brothers to take a picture of Lashizi's ancestors.
As soon as the phone was put through, Lu Zhendong over there was immediately elated, with a tone of asking for credit.
Well done. Yi Tian praised, and then said, what did he do after landing?
There are no big things, but there are several small things, and there is a very strange situation. Lu Zhendong pondered a little, and then said, Yi, I doubt that this old boy is a rabbit. After landing, he went to the surrounding vegetable market for the first time, picked up the dishes on other people's tables and put them in his mouth. What's more, the dishes he ate were all green vegetables, without any meat. He didn't even wash them raw or cold, so he put them in his mouth.
How could the master of Lingchong sect like eating vegetables so much?
Yi Tian hears Lu Zhendong's words, his head can't help but feel confused. He is very clear that there are many friars in this world who have more or less some quirks.
For example, when he was in Fengsuan spirit realm, he once met a great friar in Yupu realm.
His favorite thing is to carve wood carvings and sell them outside. There are still some friars who like flying swords. Where there is a flying sword competition, he will go take part in, don't miss one, but these quirks, strange as they are reasonable. Like the ancestor of the Lingchong sect, it's really strange to catch vegetables and eat them without washing them.
What's the picture you took over there? Send it to me and let me have a look. After pondering a little, Yi Tian asks Lu Zhendong.
Yes, Yi, just a moment. When Lu Zhendong heard the news, he immediately hung up the phone and called up the pictures taken by his group of young brothers in the vegetable market.
Is this guy really reincarnated? When Yi Tian saw the photos, he was completely dull.
I see that the ancestor of Lingchong in the photo is a dry and thin old man. It's not a rare thing for such an old man to appear in the vegetable market. However, it can't resist the ancestor of Lingchong sect. He holds a big white radish in his right hand and a half-human high scallion in his other hand, mouthing after mouthing, even without burping. It's very difficult. I don't think these two things taste great. I just hold them and chew them crazily. Such a treacherous picture can't help but make Yi Tian doubt whether the ancestor of Lingchong sect is really a vegetarian little monster in Fengsuan Lingyu, crossing the border and coming to the earth.
A comer will hide in the vegetable market, grasp the green onion and white radish crazy gnaw? Yi Tian deeply doubts this.
As far as he knows, as long as he is a normal monk, he will never do such strange things.
Your people, he didn't find out, did he? Yi Tian is a little silent, and immediately asks Lu Zhendong.
He doubted whether it was Lu Zhendong's younger brothers who were discovered by Lingchong's ancestors. Therefore, this guy deliberately made some strange moves to confuse the public and make himself under the illusion that there was something wrong with his spirit, so he took it lightly.
Yi, don't worry. My people have never been found by him.
Lu Zhendong shook his head, and then with a cry in his voice, said, it's a coincidence that we found him. Those guys went to the vegetable market to collect protection fees. As a result, they ran into him and thought this guy was funny, so they took photos and sent them to the group. As a result, the old boy of Lingchong sect recognized him, and then he received the Lingchong before long text message from Lao Zhu. It turned out to be just a coincidence.
Yi Tian nodded slightly.
According to Lu Zhendong, it really didn't seem like the ancestor of the spirit bud deliberately played it out. However, he was really curious about what happened to make a monk look like this.
Yi, don't worry.
I've been out of touch with those things for a long time, and I've made a clear distinction with them. But, after all, I didn't quit the group because of my past love. At this time, Lu Zhendong saw that Yi Tian was silent. He thought that Yi Tian had heard that he was still in touch with his younger brothers in the past. He was upset and quickly explained. You can handle those things by yourself.
As long as you have the courage, whatever you do. Yi Tian shook his head speechless, followed closely, and said, "Where is the ancestor of the spirit insect now?" "Ling Chong is now living in Nanhai Hotel. I asked someone to inquire about the situation from the hotel. That old man doesn't even go out every day. All day long, except sleeping, he asks the chef in the back of the hotel to cook for him. What he eats is all vegetarian dishes, and most of them are raw. It is said that people in the hotel often hear bursts of crying from his room, heartbreaking and miserable. Lu Zhendong is quite careful in his work. He inquires about Ying and tells Yi Tian all about it. This is really strange." Yi Tian can't help but wring his brow into a knot when he hears this answer. Although he knows that there will be some monks who are vegetarian, he hasn't heard of any monks who are so vegetarian that they only eat lettuce leaves and hide in the room crying bitterly. However, he also understood that all these questions, only to interrogate Lu Zhendong, cannot produce any results. Only when he returns to the South China Sea, can he find out. In the message of Ling Chong ancestor, did you make an appointment with Ling Chong Zong at what time? Yi Tian continues to ask.
They agreed to meet under the statue of goddess next to Mangrove Beach tomorrow evening.
Moreover, the time and place of meeting were all put forward by the ancestor of Ling Chong himself. Lu Zhendong nodded hastily and said the specific time and place of the meeting. The meeting time was proposed by Ling Chong's ancestors. He had already arrived at Nanhai, but he was not eager to meet his disciples. Instead, he caught lettuce and ate it fiercely? Hearing this, Yi Tian felt a slight movement in his heart. He only felt that the cloud of doubt over the old ancestor of the spirit insect had become more and more intense. Some of his thoughts didn't know what he was thinking. "Okay, take care of the guy of Ling Chong's sect. If you have any new progress, please contact me at any time. You don't have to worry about the meeting. I'm on my way back to Nanhai. Tomorrow evening, I'll meet him in person." After pondering a little, Yi Tian calms down to Lu Zhendong. After hearing the answer from the phone, he hangs up. "Drive faster. I'll go back to Nanhai as soon as possible. I'll be there by tomorrow afternoon." After hanging up the phone, Yi Tian looked at the driver in the front row and said in a deep voice, "Okay, don't worry. I will take you back to Nanhai in time." Hearing this, the driver nodded in a hurry without any hesitation. Then he stepped down the accelerator and sped away towards the South China Sea. Lang Ruyu's driver is really good. He is not only courageous and loyal, but also has good driving skills. He drives fast all the way. Finally, at 4 p.m. the next day, he arrived in Nanhai City and sent Yi Tian directly to the statue of goddess in Mangshuten. Along the way, Lang Ruyu's mood has become much better, and the smile on her face has hardly broken. "That is very beautiful, a smile, just like 100 flowers blooming dimple, moving incomparable, people almost sink into one, unable to extricate themselves. There is no doubt that from now on, Nanhai City will lose an eternal iceberg and have a beautiful woman with a smile." "Yi Tian, thank you. When you're finished, I'll invite you to dinner. Go to my house and cook myself." When getting off the bus, Lang Ruyu looks at Yi Tian with a smile and sincerely sends out an invitation. This sentence, let the front row driver's chin, almost did not fall to the ground. He has been working as a driver for Lang Ruyu for some years, but this is the first time he has heard that Lang Ruyu is going to send out a date invitation to a man to visit her home. Although Yi Tian has saved Lang Ruyu's life, as far as the driver thinks, if it was put in the past, Lang Ruyu would not do it even if she wanted to repay her kindness. Even this made him doubt whether the wind had disturbed the spring water after the melting of the eternal glacier. "Okay, no problem." Without thinking about it, Yi Tian responds. He also wants to see how Yaya is now. By the way, he can confirm whether Huangjiden can change Lang Ruyu's constitution, harmonize yin and yang, and have fertility. Then I'll wait for your call. When Lang Ruyu hears Yi Tian's affirmative reply, she immediately starts to smile with expectation in her eyes, and then signals the driver to drive. However, after leaving for a long time, the driver sees that Lang Ruyu still twists her head and stares at Yi Tian's position. There is a smile in her eyes, but there is also some pain and acerbity. Along the way, let her more confirmed one thing, that is now she, I'm afraid,
has really had a good feeling for Yi Tian.
However, Yi Tian is not alone.
He already has a girlfriend, and his girlfriend is his best friend. This time, she might fall in love with someone she shouldn't have.
Where does Yi Tian know about Lang Ruyu's thoughts?
After he gets out of the car, he goes straight to the statue of Goddess.
The statue of Goddess is a famous building in Nanhai City.
It is said that the goddess was originally an ordinary person, and her husband was a fisherman. Every time her husband went out to sea, she would come here to watch.
But once, after her husband went out to sea, she never came back, and she settled here, waiting for her husband's return.
However, she died a long time here and never saw her husband who had not returned from the sea. After her death, her sincerity seems to have moved God. Her soul wandered in the vast sea area to protect the fishermen, so that they could return safely from the vast sea. Over time, the old Wangfu became the goddess of Nanhai City, and more people built this sculpture for her. The statue of Goddess is not only the first place for fishermen to worship before going to sea in Nanhai City, but also a park full of people.
When Yi Tian arrived, the ancestor of Lingchong didn't appear, but he didn't worry. Instead, he waited here quietly. It was getting dark.
When the crowd dispersed, Yi Tian suddenly saw that along the distance, an old man with pale beard and hair was walking towards this place. Moreover, when the old man came, he was carrying a carrot in his hand. As he walked, he was gnawing with a bang, and his face was even more intoxicated. It seemed that this was the most delicious thing in the world. Surpassing the peak of heaven, he is a monk in the 6th floor of the cave. While the old man is approaching, Yi Tian's eyes are changing. From each other's body, he feels the unique breath of a monk in the cave.
Is it a comber or something else? Yi Tian looks at the old man with white hair and beard.
His eyes are changing. He is full of curiosity about his identity. No matter which comber he had seen, he was busy, looking for the coming of darkness. However, the ancestor of the spirit bug was obviously very different from those who came. It was not that he ate lettuce, but his leisure and laziness. I'm afraid anyone who comes will never find a hotel and sleep in the dark for a few days. When he's hungry, he'll go to the kitchen of the hotel and ask for some lettuce leaves and fruits. He'll live like a rabbit.
But in addition to those who came, Yi Tian couldn't figure out what the other party was.
It is true that there was a cultivator on Earth, but now there is a cultivator in the true sense. I'm afraid that he is the only one to get rid of the one who comes. Otherwise, he would have been there for a long time. Sha 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 sha. But just when Yi Tian's mood changes, along the surrounding area, there are bursts of sounds like raindrops falling on the ground.
But, strangely, on the marble floor, it was dry, let alone raindrops, and there wasn't even a water star.
Ah, poisonous snake, where are so many poisonous snakes?
Centipedes, spiders, how come there are so many poisonous insects in Nanhai? Why do they all come here?
Are they poisonous insects moving the next breath? Along the distance, suddenly came bursts of startled voice and howling, originally stayed in the goddess around the crowd, a face full of fear and doubt to flee around. At the same time, Yi Tian saw, along the 4 directions, there are insect-tide army, like the black tide, close to their position.
He has found me. Yi Tian sees this and looks around.
At the same time, the corner of his eye suddenly sees that the ancestor of Lingchong is standing not far away from him, chewing the carrot stick and looking at him with a funny smile. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Almost at the moment when this idea appeared, the speed of crawling was the fastest. A few poisonous snakes around Yi Tian suddenly jumped up from the ground like a sharp arrow. The snake's kiss opened, and Moring's poisonous teeth flashed a dark blue light, biting all around him.
Do you think this level of attack will have an effect on me?
Yi Tian looks at the old ancestor of Lingchong in front of him with indifference. With a smile, he gently raises his hand, and several wind blades fly out. Then he cuts them down on the vipers who fly to the ground. Just in the blink of an eye, he cuts them all into pieces of thumb length, which are scattered on the ground.
You are the same person as me.
I knew that in such a house. How could you have an eye without being found out? Do you use the spirit gathering array to gather the aura around the house and make it your training place? Seeing this scene, the ancestor of Lingchong was not frightened at all. On the contrary, his face was full of happy smile, just like he was lost in his heart. Now it was finally confirmed. It turned out that he had already discovered that the rented house was not a smart eye at all, but a man-made cultivation place. However, it's no wonder that since he is a monk, when he appears in this world, he will feel that the aura level of this world is very thin. Under such circumstances, if there is an aura, and it is still in the city, but it is not found, it must be a ridiculous thing. The only explanation is that there are people similar to him in this world, where they set up a spirit gathering array to gather the aura around them and help them practice. However, he didn't bother to point out to the Lingchong sect disciple, and even deliberately praised him, which made a false impression to people. It seemed that he didn't really think of these secrets, and simply regarded them as a spiritual eye, so that people could lower their vigilance to him. In this way, this vegetarian rabbit essence can't be underestimated. At least, it's a good idea. However, Tian can't understand why he still appears in front of himself, instead of choosing to stay in Lingchong's zone, since he already knows this? Perhaps, he just wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to see himself. This words into the ear of the moment, Tian's heart immediately set off a storm. Now that you know it, don't hide it. Who are you? The Comer, or something? Tian Yan in here, looking at the old ancestor of Lingchong from a distance, a word, deep voice drink asked. The Comer? Have those who seek the reappearance of darkness also come to this world? Hearing the sound, the old ancestor's eyes suddenly changed. On his face, he was a little more alert, but also a little more excited. This guy is not a Comer. Tian was stunned when he heard the news, and he found some crucial contents from the ancestor of Lingchong. Who are you? However, while confirming that the other party is not the one who comes, Tian's heart is full of confusion. It's not the Comer, but the monk. And listening to his tone, he seems to know a lot about the Comer, which makes people wonder about his real identity. First let me see your strength, see if you are qualified, talk to me, and then talk about other things. The ancestor of Lingchong smiles indifferently and immediately raises his hand. In a flash, many poisonous insects crawling on the ground are rushing to Tian as if they had received a command at the same time. Thousands of poisonous insects are stacked together, like a black tornado, sweeping forward, which makes people feel that no matter how powerful you are, as long as you are touched by these poisonous insects and fall to the ground, then the only thing waiting for you is death. Insect carving skills really don't need to show off. But in the face of all this, Tian's face not only did not fear, but calm as usual, hands gently raised, fire burning skills, large groups of fireballs suddenly fly out, fell on those poisonous insects. The moment, there are bursts of terrible cracking sound, immediately, the air filled with a strong smell of burning. But even so, those terrible and ferocious poisonous insects, like the fear of not knowing the coming of death at all, while many poisonous insects in front were turned into ashes by Tian's fire-burning secret technique, the poisonous insects in the rear, like the most brave and fearless soldiers in the world, quickly filled those vacuum areas and continued to sweep Tian. Even if Tian constantly bombarded with fireballs, he could only block the approach of other poisonous insects. Your mind is powerful enough to control so many poisonous insects at the same time. Tian sighed gently. Just at the moment when Lingchong's face was full of satisfaction, the front of the conversation turned abruptly and said with a sneer, "It's a pity that your patterns are not enough to see in front of me." Zheng. Next breath, Tian's mind moved, and the fierce flying sword appeared in his palm. Then, his hand flicked to the flying sword. Qingyue was like a dragon chant, but with a strong and fierce sword sound, it suddenly swept in all directions. The sound waves spread in a moment, and the air was suddenly awed. Many poisonous insects that were not afraid of death, just like sensing some extremely incredible fear, did not have any hesitation. They were originally gathered together, just like the tide of the sea, suddenly broke up, followed the sound of the sword, and quickly fled in all directions. Fierce soldier. Magic weapon, fierce soldier. What's more, it has the smell of semi-immortal soldiers in it. This scene is obviously far beyond the expectation of Lingchong's ancestors. Although he guessed that a courtyard no less powerful than the one on Lingyan must be strong enough, he still didn't expect that such a powerful fierce soldier would appear in Tian's hands. You know what it is. When Tian heard this, he raised his eyebrow, gave a faint smile, and made a move to let the fierce sword hover around his body, sending out a stream of terrible pressure. Many poisonous insects on the ground, as if afraid of the flood and beasts, dodged Tian's area with him as the center, and there was a small open space.
What else do you have? Just take it out and let me see what's extraordinary about you.
Closely following, Tian stares at the eyes of the old ancestor of the spirit insect, word by word, light way. Although his intonation is not big, it seems that he has a kind of strong power.
Yes, you are really out of my expectation. To Yi Tian's surprise, after hearing this, Lingchong Laozu, instead of being angry, burst out laughing, as if he was very satisfied with his performance. What is the origin of this person, and what do you want to do? Yi Tian frowns slightly. He finds that he can't see through the ancestor of the spirit bug. The origin of this guy is a mystery.
Although he knows the Comer, it's obvious that he is not the same as them.
Who are you? What do you want to do? Yi Tian stares at the eyes of Lingchong's ancestor and asks him in a deep voice. Ha, it doesn't matter who I am. The important thing is that you are the one I want to find.
But one thing, I can tell you very clearly, I am different from those who come, not those crazy people who want the darkness to come.
Lingchong Laozu shakes his head and smiles. Looking at Yi Tian, he says, I'm coming here to give you a big chance. Would you be so kind?
Yi Tian sneers and doesn't want to believe a word of Lingchong's words. He is not a young man of cultivation. He knows very well that there is no free lunch at the end of the day, and there is no great chance to send him to the door. It's okay to deceive those young people who have just embarked on the road of cultivation, but it's wishful thinking to deceive him.
Don't believe me? It's reasonable.
Even if I heard someone talk to me like this, I would not hesitate to take it out directly.
If there's any chance, I'll slap him in the face first. The spirit insect old ancestor hears a sound, don't think of HHA to laugh a few, the way.
Yi Tian is full of black lines, some speechless looking at the ancestor of the spirit insect.
This guy is really a wonderful flower. Like a rabbit, he likes to eat radish and grass.
Speaking of words, he doesn't even care about his own face.
He doesn't look like a friar at all.
On the contrary, he looks like a careless bastard. However, Yi Tian asked himself that this kind of character of Lingchong's ancestor made people trust and like him a little more. At least, he didn't look as disgusting as those who came.
These things are really noisy and stinky.
The cultivation method of Lingchongzong is really so bad that it's disgusting.
It's stupid to control these simple-minded poisonous insects instead of powerful animals.
At this time, the ancestor of the spirit insect listened to the rustle of the poisonous insects around him, and the strong fishy smell sent out along their bodies. His face showed a strong color of disgust. He suddenly raised his hand and gave a ring finger.
Bang! Bang!
Bang! With the fall of the finger sound of Lingchong's ancestors, in an instant, along the gathering place of the poisonous insects, bursts of popping sounds suddenly sounded. One by one, the poisonous insects burst out, turned into meat sauce, and scattered all over the ground. The original sound of rain and spring silkworms eating mulberries suddenly became quiet. Such a world is much quieter.
How are you thinking about it? I didn't cheat you. I'm looking for you to give you a chance. To be exact, I want you to do me a little favor and give you another chance. Hearing this, Lingchong Laozu smiles and nods.
His face is full of relaxed color.
Then he takes a deep breath.
In a moment, his whole face turns bitter gourd color. He frowns and scolds angrily, "Mother, it's more smelly."
How can I forget that I'm standing at the bottom of the air? Isn't this self-inflicted?
This guy is really evil. Hearing this, Yi Tian felt speechless, but he became more and more curious about his identity and origin. Not only that, but Yi Tian also thinks that this guy's style is a little familiar. He seems to have seen it or heard it from someone.
Boom! Boom!
Bang! At this time, the ancestor of Lingchong picked up the carrot and began to nibble it again. When he chewed it, he narrowed his eyes and looked intoxicated. This scene makes Yi Tian's heart speechless. After so many years of cultivation, he really saw such a wonderful monk for the first time. Wonderful flowers. Wait a minute, but at this time, Yi Tian's eyes suddenly stagnated, and he suddenly thought of a possibility in his heart, which made the Lingchong ancestor and a certain image he had heard of combine together slowly. But in a moment, he felt ridiculous, and he couldn't help staring at Lingchong ancestor and looking up and down again.
What do you think I'm doing?
In other words, you have been kept under the salty sea for 2,000 years, and you can only nibble at raw fish.
After you get out of trouble, don't you want to eat something fresh and have a good time clearing your stomach?
Lingchong Laozu saw Yi Tian's eyes and turned a white eye at him. He made a fuss and was very upset.
It could be this guy. Yi Tian took a breath of air conditioning and took a bite of yawazi.
Suddenly, he felt that the goods and the image he thought of had become more and more close to each other. However, the word 2,000 years in the words of Lingchong Laozu still made his mind suddenly awe. He was able to be suppressed for 2,000 years, and after so long, he was still so alive.
This guy is really incredible.
However, if the guy in the ancestor of Lingchong is really the guy he guessed, with his strength, who can suppress him for 2,000 years?
Why are you looking at me so strangely? Do you want to eat, too?
Seeing Yi Tian's appearance, the ancestor of Lingchong scratched his head and buttocks again. Then he took out a carrot from the girdle hanging behind his buttocks and handed it to Yi Tian, saying, "Don't look.
If you want to eat, you can have one."
Leaf Day, looking at the carrot that pass over, full face of speechless, for a time, don't know is connect good, still don't connect. Drip drip. But just then, along the distance, suddenly came a sound of sirens, followed by a long string of police cars, along the road, whistling. It is obvious that the scene of the gathering of poisonous insects has already caused a panic. Someone called the police and the police are coming here to find out the truth.
No, why are these nosy people here again? It's really troublesome. I can't fight and kill.
In this world, it's really troublesome. As long as I was 2,000 years old, I would go down with one stick and smash it to pieces.
The ancestor of Lingchong is obviously no stranger to the police.
He threw half of the carrot onto the ground, turned around and walked towards the beach quickly.
After 2 steps, he saw that Yi Tian didn't move. He could not help turning around and looking at Yi Tian and said, "What are you doing standing here? Are you not afraid of them? It's too slow to walk. We'd better use the imperial sword." Yi Tian hears the sound and smiles indifferently.
The fierce soldier's flying sword is running. At the same time, he grabs the Lingchong ancestor to the flying sword.
Zheng.
The fierce soldier's flying sword gave a trembling sound, and then he took them to the sky, flew forward, straight into the clouds, and let them stand in the vast white clouds. Flying with the imperial sword, I haven't experienced it for a long time.
The ancestor of the spirit bug tut-tut sighed and looked at Yi Tian enviously.
Then, he used a kind of strange corn which was full of bewitching, just like the strange corn which was using lollipops to trick little girls, and said with a smile, "Boy, you are much more powerful than I thought. If you can catch such a chance in this broken world, boy, you are definitely a man of great fortune.
Do it with me, and you won't suffer any loss. You still don't want to tell me who you are?"
Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and looked at the ancestor of Lingchong, slowly.
"What? If I don't, are you going to push me off?"
The old ancestor of the spirit insect took out a carrot again, and while gnawing it, he chuckled to Yi Tian.
"Of course not." Yi Tian shook his head, looked at the eyes of the Lingchong ancestor, and said with a smile, "And I believe that even if you are pushed down from above, you will not be killed. Isn't that right, Ling Ming?"
Ling Ming?
When Yi Tian's words fell, the expression on the face of Lingchong's ancestor suddenly stagnated.
He forgot to chew the carrots in his mouth, so he opened his eyes and swallowed them abruptly. But the next breath, he took another bite of the carrot and said with a smile, "I don't know what you're talking about."
"You don't know what I'm talking about?"
"I'll tell you a little story." Hearing the words, Yi Tian looked at Lingchong's ancestor with a smile and continued, "There is a kind of lincture between heaven and earth, which is different from other lincture. It contains vitality. After the combination of time and place, it can produce a living creature. The living creature from it is called Lingming Stone Monkey. It can know the change, the time, the geography, and the stars. Many years ago, a Lingming Stone Monkey was born between heaven and earth. This stone monkey is stubborn and self-made. It made a big stir in heaven and earth and made a world shaking. In the end, the Lingming Stone Monkey angered several powerful monks. Since then, it has never appeared. Some people say that he was killed by those friars.
Others say that although those friars tried their best to kill the Lingming stone monkey, they couldn't do it.
In the end, they had no choice but to suppress and ban him. Boom Boom listening to Yi Tian's words, Lingchong's face was full of smiles, and he chewed carrots.
Seeing Yi Tian's words stopped, he said with a smile, "This story is very interesting. You go on and I'll continue to listen. This monkey is really amazing.
It can jump out of the crack of the stone.
Don't you know these stories better than me?
Lingming, no need to disguise, I know, you are it.
You can't fake your character and your performance.
However, I didn't expect that Lingming stone monkey was really suppressed.
Moreover, after 2,000 years of suppression, it was still alive. However, what you are now, is it the spirit body, or the transformation of the art of change?"
Yi Tian chuckles and looks directly into the eyes of Lingchong's ancestor, and continues to say word by word.
"Of course, it's the spirit body.
In 2,000 years, even a stone has long been worn out into the air."
The ancestor of Lingchong, or Lingming stone monkey, hears Yi Tian's words. In his eyes, he looks at Yi Tian with great interest and says with a smile, "Little guy, I'm really more and more curious about you now. How do you know what happened to me?"
He is really a Lingming stone monkey. Yi Tian heard Lingming stone monkey's words, his body was shocked, and his eyes suddenly showed a strong color of shock. Although he had guessed the identity of Lingming stone monkey before, it was only a guess after all, and he could not be sure whether it was true or not. But now, Lingming stone monkey's frankness to admit, it is completely confirmed that this thing, all this, cannot help but let his heart shock. 2 years ago, the body was rotten, but there was still a wisp of spirit.
It seems that the secret place that Ling Chanzong explored at the beginning was the place where Lingming Shihu was suppressed.
Maybe the suppression time had reached the limit, or they destroyed a certain area of the suppression field and released Lingming Shihu, who had been suppressed for 2,000 years, to let him escape from the heaven and occupy the body of Ling Chanzong's ancestors. One repressed for 2,000 years, and the other repressed for 2,000 years, even a wisp of spirit remained. At this moment, Yi Tian doesn't know which one he should be shocked by.
However, he was not surprised by all this.
The legend of Lingming stone monkey dates back to the Dark Ages. It's said that he was born to be raised by Dao Zhongling. At that time, his cultivation had already broken through to the heaven. He was one of the only powerful monks. His opponent was too terrible to suppress him. But even so, it was under the joint efforts of several other monks.
It's true that the experience of Lingming stone monkey is similar to that of him.
It's all because Mu Xiu was in the forest and was devastated by the wind.
One of them was suppressed by the strong force.
After 2,000 years in the sea, he was a monkey, but he could only eat fish. After he got out of poverty, he was greedy for the fresh and chewy fruit of carrot, just like a hungry ghost.
Who are you? How do you know about me?
At this time, Lingming stone monkey sighed, looked at Yi Tian, frowned and asked. It has been 2,000 years since he was suppressed. But after such a long time, how could a young man who knew his origin about the history of 2,000 years ago suddenly appear on this planet with declining aura?
It doesn't matter who I am. The important thing is that I know about you.
Yi Tian chuckles, learning from Lingming stone monkey's previous words and playing with taste. A language falls, the face of Lingming stone monkey immediately becomes embarrassed incomparably, only feel that Yi Tian this guy, must repay, unexpectedly take own words, to prevaricate oneself. He also understands, this poor also no wonder Leaf Day, after all is he prevaricate Leaf Day first, but is a newspaper return a newspaper but the only thing that annoys him is that the more he doesn't speak, the more he feels scratched in his heart and wants to understand the truth. You and I each have their own secrets. I'll leave these things aside for the time being.
Now I just want to know what chance you're going to give me? Yi Tian smiles and immediately looks at Lingming stone monkey and asks him what he said before.
According to the information he got in Fangsu and Lingyu, although Lingming stone monkey is naughty and likes to play tricks on people, there is no precedent of harming others. On the contrary, Lingming stone monkey's reputation among monks is very poor, especially for some monks who have planted lingua carefully.
They are miserable about Lingming stone monkey's behavior.
They want to be a great monk in a field, but they like to steal other people's lingua and leave fruit peels and stones all over the ground.
Among many legends, the most popular one is the Lingming stone monkey, who makes a big noise at another monk's birthday party.
At the banquet, he fights fiercely, and even pulls up the spirit plant carefully cultivated by that monk for so many years, almost without breaking its root. But Lingming stone monkey's reputation among friars is not very good, but among ordinary people, it is excellent. Even after many years, when Tian was in Fangsuan Lingyu, he found that the tablets of Lingming stone monkey were worshipped in the portals of many ordinary people. From this point, we can see that Lingming stone monkey may be strong and like to disobey the rules, but it never does anything to hurt the innocent. According to these, Tian also thinks that Lingming stone monkey may indeed be a good partner.
It may not be a bad thing to go with him this time. No, you already know everything about me, and I also want to know about you. Where are you from?
Lingming stone monkey stares at Tian. After twitching for a moment, he looks at him and asks in a deep voice.
You and I both come from the same place. The only difference is that it's time to surprise an era.
Tian chuckles and tells Lingming some ambiguous information. After all, Lingming stone monkey has been suppressed for 2,000 years at the bottom of the sea. No one knows whether Lingming stone monkey's mood has become extreme and furious because of such a long time. If it is really the latter, then if you don't ask anything clearly, you will join hands with Lingming stone monkey.
Maybe, waiting for his end, you will be miserable.
I have answered your question.
Now it's your turn to answer my question. Tian doesn't pay attention to the curiosity of Lingming stone monkey, but looks at his eyes and continues to ask Qin Shang.
Good boy, you should play this game with me, but even if I tell you, it's not impossible. Boy, I'm going to Kunlun, where there is a big chance.
Lingming stone monkey smiles, then looks at Tian and says again, how about you, do you have the courage to accompany me to Kunlun? Believe me, there may be a secret in truth that you haven't touched in your life. Well, would you like to come with me? Kunlun.
Tian's eyes suddenly changed when he heard the news, and he suddenly thought of a lot of information about Kunlun. At the beginning, he saw some broken utensils in the secret library of Taiman, on which there were some ancient bird and insect seal characters written Kunlun Palace in the same way. He thought of what the policeman said when he was in the Valley of Death. There is no doubt that in that ancient land, there must be many secrets waiting for him to dig. Now, as soon as Lingming stone monkey is released from the repression, the first thing he has to do is to invite him to Kunlun, which proves the conjecture in his mind. In the towering Kunlun where there are too many legends, there must be more secrets of a long time. It seems that you have noticed Kunlun's excellence.
How about going with me? Lingming stone monkey has the ability to understand people's heart.
Looking at the change of Tian's expression, he smiles and sends out an invitation to him again.
What are you going to look for there?
Or, what's good for you with what's there?
What good will it do me if I go there? Tian was silent for a moment. He immediately gazed into the eyes of Lingming stone monkey and asked in a deep voice.
When he was in Fangsuan Lingyu, Tian knew that Lingming stone monkey's win rating was not too bad, and he should be a reliable partner, but no one knew whether his mind changed greatly after 2,000 years of suppression, and whether he would do anything for what he wanted. Therefore, Tian must carefully consider, determine the gain and loss, and then make a decision.
I once lost something in Kunlun. I want to see if it is still there now. Lingming stone monkey was a little silent.
He looked up at the end of the sea and sky, laughed and murmured, and then said, as for why I want to find someone to go with me, it's very simple, because my current strength is not enough to explore Kunlun by myself, so I need a helper, and it can be recognized by me. And you have that qualification. Tian looks at the shape of Lingming stone monkey, and his eyes change. He faintly feels that what Lingming stone monkey said was lost in Kunlun, maybe not a thing, but a person.
Is it possible to say that in the majestic Kunlun mountains, there may be an existence that has been suppressed for 2,000 years, like Lingming stone monkey? However, what kind of person or thing can make Lingming stone monkey exist?
After 2,000 years, it still lingers on.
Kunlun used to be a blessed place for cultivation. It can be said that Kunlun is the most prosperous place in the ancient cultivation world on Earth.
Although the aura of this heaven and earth is declining and everything is sinking, there may still be some spiritual roots there. If you can get them, you can see the sea, long men can expect them, and even your future cultivation can be promoted to a more powerful level. It's good for you. Moreover, in today's world, when it comes to the familiarity with Kunlun, no one can go beyond me.
Without me, no one can enter Kunlun and then retreat. Do you think this reward is worth your attention?
Lingming Stone Monkey looked at Yi Tian and continued to him. The seed view is expected, the Dragon's Gate can be expected, and even the cultivation in the future can be improved, which is also of great benefit.
Yi Tian's eyes are changing.
He feels a kind of honesty from Lingming Stone Monkey's words and knows that the other party didn't cheat him.
However, there is one thing that I have to make clear. Apart from chance, there are also dangers. Heaven and earth change. I don't know what Kunlun looks like today.
I can't be sure what the things I remember can do in Kunlun. Therefore, there will be certain dangers, even the danger of life and death. I will not force you to decide whether to go or not, but I can guarantee that as long as you get something, it will be a worthwhile trip. At this time, Lingming Stone Monkey is very calm to say that this trip, in addition to the income, there is danger.
Kunlun, I'll go.
Yi Tian's eyes changed and he immediately made a decision. He had the idea of exploring Kunlun for a long time, but he has not been able to do so. Now that he has Lingming Stone Monkey with him, if he doesn't go there once, he will feel regretful and even regret all his life.
Ah, I knew you wouldn't refuse. Pack up and get ready to go. I've been waiting too long. I don't want to waste any more time.
Hearing this, Lingming Stone Monkey raised his head and laughed.
Immediately, he looked at Yi Tian with burning eyes and said in a deep voice.
Then he was embarrassed and grabbed his ass and said, "However, I don't have that little piece of plastic. I can't live in a shop or sit in your iron bird."
You have to think about it. Iron bird? Yi Tian was stunned, and immediately understood that what Lingming Stone Monkey said should be the plane.
He immediately nodded with a smile and said, "Don't worry, I'll find a way." After a few words, he took out his mobile phone and called Qin Luotian, telling her that he was going to Kunlun. After that, he asked her to arrange a private plane that could support long-distance flight to take him and Lingming Stone Monkey to Kunlun. Qin Luotian naturally obeyed Yi Tian's words. Not long after receiving the call, he arranged for people to prepare the private plane, and hired an experienced captain to fly the plane over the plateau. The weather is changing rapidly. Many pilots who dare to fly international flights dare not challenge this dangerous flight.
Yi Tian and Lingming Stone Monkey boarded the plane.
When the plane took off and appeared in the sky, Lingming Stone Monkey looked at the white clouds outside the window of the plane and said with emotion, "Heaven and earth are already in decline." Unexpectedly, people on the ground still have the ability to soar above the 9 heavens.
It's heaven and earth that changes, not people. If there's no way to go, we'll find another way. Living people will never be suffocated by urine. Yi Tian smiles and says slowly.
As he said, although heaven and earth are changing, human beings remain unchanged.
The decline of aura and cultivation does not mean that this is a dead end. In the era of aura decline, human beings can still create brilliant scientific and technological civilization.
This is the man who does not despair because of the change of heaven and earth. Even though there are many thorns, he still has to wait a new road. What you said is very similar to what someone once said to me when I first came to this world. Although a person is weak, his heart is strong. As long as he wants to do something, even if there is a sea of fire ahead, he will continue to move forward as long as he has a breath to go to the end. Lingming Stone Monkey smile, slowly eyes, more exposed to touch of memory. This look, let Yi Tian see, although Lingming Stone Monkey did not say who that person is, but there is no doubt that he is one of the most important people in his life. The captain's posture is very skillful. At dusk, the plane arrived at Nachitai in the northwest frontier. When I got out of the plane, the sun was setting in red, like oil paint, splashed on the towering mountains in the distance. The snow-covered mountains were dyed into light gold. From a distance, they were like huge dragons lying on the earth. Nachitai, a transliteration of Tibetan, translated into Huaxia, is a platform in the swamp. When it comes to Naktai, very few Chinese people know it. But when it comes to the old Kunlun spring in Naktai, many Chinese know it. According to legend, the Queen Mother of the West entertained the gods in the Kunlun Mountains, and the gods were invited to the meeting. During the banquet, the gods expressed their contributions to the creation of god Fanma, who said that the north of Kunlun Mountain would be transformed into a place with grass, fat, water, strong cattle and sheep, green fields and fragrant milk. When the Queen Mother of the West heard the great joy of the speech, she gave wine to Fanma. At the end of the banquet, on the way back, Fanma held the wine and spilled it on the ground. The wine spilled on the ground turned into the immortal Kunlun spring. There is no way to tell whether the legend is true or false, but the old Kunlun spring is indeed a beautiful scenery of Nachitai, known as the Wonder of Kunlun. All around the spring pool are granite fields, but a clear spring in the center of the pool spouts out from the ground, forming a crystal mushroom shape, throwing countless jasper-like water around, just like a blooming lotus. However, to Tian's surprise, when he arrived at the airport, he found a very interesting scene. The mountain people, who are very difficult to meet in all parts of China, now seem to gather in the old Kunlun spring. In a short time, he met more than a dozen people. Mountain people, unlike ordinary people, will go sightseeing because of the beautiful scenery. There are so many people on the mountain. It must be something extraordinary happened here. What happened here? How could so many mountain people gather? Not only Tian, but Lingming Stone Monkey also found this abnormality. After scanning around, he frowned and murmured, "I'll go to find someone to find out what happened here." Tian shakes his head and asks a mountain man why they went to Kunlun. "There's no need to ask. I'll call someone to ask." Lingming Stone Monkey waved his hand, a light sentence, and immediately, he patted the shoulder of the mountain man who passed by. "What are you doing?" The mountain man was walking in a hurry when he was suddenly patted. He turned his head and drank angrily. But before he said a word, he saw a flash of gold in the eyes of Lingming Stone Monkey. The unhappy color on his face suddenly solidified, and the whole person became dull. Dementor! When Tian saw this, he immediately realized that Lingming Stone Monkey should have used some kind of soul-taking secret technique to this monk. However, the soul-taking skill of Lingming Stone Monkey is obviously much better than that of him. It doesn't need to frighten the other person's mind first, and then make a search. Just a flash of such understatement makes the other person lose his mind. From this point of view, Lingming Stone Monkey, which was once famous in Fengsuan spirit field, really deserves its reputation. Why do so many mountain people gather here? At this time, Lingming Stone Monkey looked directly into the eyes of the mountain man and asked in a deep voice. "We're all here for the dead." The mountain man's mind was under control. When he heard this, he immediately said everything he knew like a bean in a bamboo tube. It turned out that just yesterday, a huge and rare avalanche suddenly occurred in Kunlun Mountain. What's more amazing is that when the avalanche ended and the snow dispersed, several monks looking for a panacea in Kunlun Mountain found a corpse in the avalanche area. Kunlun Mountain is not only a mythical place, but also a forbidden area for life. It is very common for corpses to appear in avalanches. But this time, it is very unusual that the corpse appeared after the avalanche. I don't know how many years it has passed away, but he still has the power of cultivation. You know, under normal circumstances, when a monk dies and his life withers, the cultivation prestige will disappear. This vision can't help but make those mountain people curious about it, and want to know why all this happened, or, can't help but let them fantasize about whether they can get the cultivation method from this corpse which still retains the powerful cultivation prestige, or the cultivation resources to improve their cultivation, and reach the peak and change their destiny. Therefore, after the news of the immortal corpse in Kunlun Mountain spread, countless mountain people immediately gathered here to try their luck and see if they could get the chance. However, according to the mountain man, although the immortal corpse appeared in the avalanche area, countless mountain people climbed along the mountain. Although they tried their best, they didn't know why, but they always felt that the immortal corpse was so close, although it was so close, they couldn't get close. Lost field. When Tian and Lingming Stone Monkey hear this, they look at each other and say 4 words with one voice. Clearly close at hand, it seems that as long as you work hard, you can reach it, but you can't get it. All these are unique to the lost field. Moreover, according to the mountain man, I'm afraid that the lost field around the immortal corpse in Kunlun Mountain should still be a powerful lost field. More importantly, as Yi Tian and Lingming Stone Monkey know, this kind of field is often arranged at the entrance of some religious sects to obstruct people with ulterior motives. However, the maze field is treacherous and unpredictable, such as watching flowers in the fog and the moon in the water. In particular, if some powerful maze fields can't be solved and fall into them, even if they spend their whole life, they can't get to the place they see. It seems that even God is helping us to enter Kunlun.
Next, Lingming Stone Monkey looks at Yi Tian playfully and says with a smile,
"Maybe it's God who has drawn us here on purpose, so that we can give up our lives here."
The Leaf Day here's speech toward Spirit Bright Stone Monkey joked.
However, what he said was not entirely a joke, because what happened was so strange. Almost when he and Lingming Stone Monkey made up their mind to go to Kunlun Mountain, there happened to be an avalanche in the immortal body. If all this is just a coincidence, it's a bit of a coincidence. Whether it's God's help or a trap, go and have a look, and you'll know.
Lingming Stone Monkey chuckled, and then said to Yi Tian, "You won't retreat, will you?
To go, or to go with the sword?"
Yi Tian smiles a light sentence.
Although he doesn't directly answer Lingming Stone Monkey, the meaning of the words is obvious. He wants to go to the location where the immortal body appears to find out. If you can defend the sword, why use that strength?
Lingming Stone Ape smile, light way.
When Yi Tian heard this, he stopped talking. He and Lingming Stone Monkey found a secluded place, and then he stood up with his sword. According to the guidance of the mountain people, he rushed to the immortal's body. After the fierce soldier's flying sword melted the half-immortal soldier's fragments again, its speed has been greatly improved. Just in a short time, it has swept over the town and appeared above the Kunlun Mountains. Looking from the high forest, Kunlun is towering, with mountains running from west to east, like the ancestor of mountains. However, the Kunlun Mountains are extremely bitter and cold. When you look down from a high position, you can only see the white snow except for the withered and yellow vegetation. In the past, this was the biggest spiritual vein in the world. It was full of green and luxuriant plants and rare herbs.
Lingming Stone Monkey looks at everything below, sighs gently, and tells Yi Tian a secret.
Kunlun used to be the biggest spiritual vein in this world, and it was not desolate. On the contrary, it was full of vitality and lushness. Yi Tian's tongue, scanning the mountains, can't imagine how magnificent the scenery is when the aura is strong here. At the beginning, the monks who can live on the biggest spiritual pulse of this world will create amazing cultivation civilization in this magnificent place. Why is he here? At this time, Yi Tian looked down, and immediately saw a familiar figure. This figure is not Yanbing's master Cho Changchun, but now Cho Changchun no longer looks as red as before, but is full of dust. Not only that, but also there are traces left after fighting with others on his body. Not only his down jacket is cut, but also his chest and back are covered with bloodstains, which seems to be the reason it's a lot of trauma. It seems that Cho Changchun is also for the sudden appearance of the immortal body on the Kunlun Mountain, and I'm afraid he has encountered some trouble. Seeing this, Yi Tian frowned and swept to the mountains behind Cho Changchun. As far as he could see, he immediately saw two early-day monks. At this moment, they were following Cho Changchun and chasing him.
Winter in Kunlun Mountain comes much earlier than other places.
The mountain is covered with ice and snow, which is not only rugged, but also easy to slip. Although Cho Changchun was a top monk at the prefecture level, he was seriously injured, and he was old and frail. Although he tried his best to escape, he fell into a snow den with his chest level because he stepped on a hard stone covered with snow.
Cho Changchun, hand over what you have, and we can leave a whole body for you.
Otherwise, you will feel like being thrown on the celestial burial platform and eaten by vultures. It's Cho Changchun's wrestling skill. The two Tianji players are already in pursuit at the beginning. Looking at Cho Changchun, who is struggling in the snow, but can't get away, he cheers coldly.
Sure how, Xia Jin, I warn you, it's better not to mess around.
Cho Changchun struggled fruitlessly. He could only look at the two monks who pursued him and said in a deep voice, "Don't blame me for not reminding you too.
My apprentice's son-in-law destroyed Yi Tian of Taiman.
Are you ready to be destroyed by my apprentice and son-in-law if you break the fist door to me?"
Ha ha ha, Cho Changchun, you are lost in phlegm.
How dare you threaten us at this time?
Not to mention Yi Tian, is he your apprentice son-in-law or not? Even if he is, so what? We killed you in the wild mountains of Kunlun. We threw you in any wild place. One day, we were eaten by vultures and wild animals. Even if your son-in-law had the ability to understand the world, could you guess that it was our brother's hand? When Sher Hao heard this, he looked up and laughed. You're right, elder martial brother. You're going to make people laugh. If you want me to say that Yi Tian, how much water there is in the matter of annihilating Taemin, no one knows. People say that he annihilated the whole clan by himself, but I absolutely don't believe it. People in Taemin, even if they are all pigs, so many pigs, if he wants to kill them all by himself, he has to waste his strength. Xia Jin is also full of disdain, but also on the results of Yi Tian's war, with great doubt, that everything is just false, simply not true. You will be sorry for what you did today. Xiao Changchun knows that he can't be Sher Hao's and Xia Jin's opponents at all, and as they say, Kunlun is extremely remote and wild animals are rampant. After they kill themselves, as long as they leave a little blood, wild animals will swarm to eat their bodies. At that time, even if Yi Tian has the ability to understand the whole world, how can he know the truth and take revenge for him? Whether we will regret it or not, you don't have to worry about it. You'd better think more about how to survive. I still said at the beginning, hand over the things, and we'll leave you a whole body. If you don't understand, you'll be torn apart. Sher Hao sneers and looks at Xiao Changchun with a smile, just like looking at a little ant falling into a pond. Don't dream. Even if I die, I will never let you two succeed. If you want to get that thing from me, don't dream. Xiao Changchun gnashes his teeth and struggles hard, but he can't get away from the snow den. Finally, he can only touch his hand between his legs. After pulling out a dagger, he shakes his hand and turns into a cold star. He flies to Sher Hao, hoping to take a life before he dies. If you hit me in your heyday, I would be afraid of it. But now, your body is decaying and your blood is empty. What are you going to do with me? As soon as Sher Hao raised his hand, he pinched the dagger in his palm. After weighing it in the air, he said coldly with disdain, and then said, since you are stubborn, I'll give you some blood first, and lead a group of wolves to see if you are going to bring the secret to Jiuquan, or say it, and change it into a whole corpse. Xiao Changchun looks at the dagger that Sher Hao brought into his hand, and then looks at the other party's cold and vicious eyes. He is completely desperate in his heart. He knew that now, he was really in a bad mood. Moreover, he was deeply trapped in this snow den, and his actions were constrained. He didn't even have the chance to commit suicide, so he could only let them impose cruel punishment on him. Ha ha, Xiao Changchun, I can't imagine that you old man will end up like this one day. Sher Hao looks at Xiao Changchun's panic, and his smile becomes more cruel and ferocious. In his eyes, at this moment, Xiao Changchun looks no different from the fish on a chopping board, and he is the knife that controls how to cut the fish. Yi Tian, if you dare to bully Binger, I'll never let you go when I'm under 9 springs. Looking at Sher Hao approaching with a dagger, Xiao Changchun couldn't help but close his eyes and raise his head to roar. In this matter, Yan Bing is the one who worries him most. As far as he feels, Yi Tian is probably a big playboy. He is very worried that his precious apprentice will be bullied by Yi Tian in the future. At that time, he is no longer there, and he doesn't even have a person to give her justice. Old man, you are so stubborn. Sher Hao shakes his head. With a shake of his hand, he is ready to stab the dagger into Xiao Changchun's chest to make him suffer painful torture. By the way, he attracts the wild animals to this place. With the psychological pressure of being eaten by the wild animals, he forces Xiao Changchun to give them what they want. Master Qiu, what did I do to make you so worried that I would bully Yanbing? When Yi Tian saw this, he could not help but step on the flying sword and fall from the sky. While standing still, he looked at Xiao Changchun and said with a smile. He really did not expect that Xiao Changchun in the face of death, the last word he yelled out was related to himself. Moreover, in his words, he was full of distrust, as if he believed that he would bully Yanbing to death. Who are you? Hearing a figure coming down from the sky in a voice, Sher Hao and Xia Jin are really scared. They are alert to step back and stare at Yi Tian and Ling Ming's stone monkey. At the same time, they suddenly think of Yi Tian's previous words and exclaim, "You are Yi Tian. It seems that you two are not too stupid to know who I am."
Yi Tian raises eyebrows and smiles indifferently.
He looks at their faces and says faintly, "It's Yi Tian. It's just, how can he come down from the sky?"
Shihao and Xie Jin's heart sank when they heard Yi Tian's words. A kind of bad premonition suddenly came out from the bottom of their heart. And although they were tightly wrapped in down jacket, at this moment, they still felt that there was a chill, which swept all over the body along the tailbone.
Yi Tian.
When Qiu Changchun hears Yi Tian's voice, his face suddenly shows ecstatic color.
He can't believe it and looks at Yi Tian.
He really didn't expect that he would be here and just meet Yi Tian. Even at this moment, he felt like he was dreaming.
"Master, we're just joking with Master Qiu.
We'll pull him out of the snow den.
Please give us a way to live."
Shihao and Xie Jin look at each other and see a kind of extreme fear from each other's eyes.
Since Yi Tian can come down from the sky, it means that his strength is really so strong that they can't understand it.
In this case, it means that the rumors spread among the people in the mountain may not be spread by mistake, but actually exist.
Yi Tian really destroyed the whole Taiyiman with his own strength.
And such a strong man, since even the whole Taiyiman can be killed, wipe it out of the world, let alone the two of them.
Joking? Didn't you think just now that I destroyed Taiyiman was also a joke? How about this?
I'll send you two to the Yanluo temple to meet the leader of Tai sect and other Tai people to see if these things are a joke. But you two had better walk faster on the way, lest they have drunk Mingpa soup and forgotten the past before they arrive. Yi Tian chuckles a light way. Younger martial brother, take this old thing and let him be our hostage.
Yi Tian's indifference made Shihao shiver.
He looked at Xie Jin, who was trembling beside him. His eyes turned and he cried out coldly. At the same time, he suddenly reached out and rushed to Krachenkin to take him down.
He is very clear that Yi Tian's strength is incomparable. Let alone the two of his brothers, even if there are two more, Yi Tian can never be his opponent. The only way is to take Qiu Changchun as a hostage and use his life to coerce Yi Tian.
Only in this way can we create a way for them to leave safely.
Hostage? Do you think you two have the ability? Don't you like animals to eat others?
I'll help you both. Yi Tian lightly smiles and shakes his head. His hand is light. The fierce sword flies out. Under the cold wind of Kunlun, it is like a clear rainbow light. The edge of the sword cuts across Shihao's and Xie Jin's neck. In a moment, bloodlines are flying along their necks. When the cold wind blows, two big good heads suddenly rise to the sky.
"Master Qiu, it's okay to be bored." With a sword, Yi Tian quickly steps forward and comes to the snow den.
He reaches out his hand and suddenly pulls the frightened Qiu Changchun out of the snow den. Then he looks at him and puts a magic power into his body.
While stabilizing his mind, Wen Shang asks, "No, it's okay."
Qiu Changchun shook his head, but his pale face showed that everything was obviously different from what he said. Just before Yi Tian appeared, he thought that he would die this time, and that he would be eaten by wild animals. But he didn't expect that Yi Tian appeared in time to stop what was going to happen. That's good. Yi Tian knows that Qiu Changchun is still thrilled, but he is also embarrassed to break it. He smiles and nods to him. Then he takes some medicine from Shumi's ring to stop bleeding and clean it up. He also takes out a set of thick clothes and replaces Qiu Changchun's down jacket, which is stained with blood and has broken two big holes.
All the down is gone.
Qiu Changchun stares at what Yi Tian has done.
He can't understand how Yi Tian has changed so many things out of thin air.
At the same time, he can't help looking at Shihao and Xie Jin, who are already in different places. These two men, whose cultivation strength is similar to him, are the top of the prefecture level. Among the people on the mountain, although they are not top experts, they can already be regarded as experts. But even so, when they came to Yi Tian, they were just like two children who had no power to fight. They were killed by Yi Tian's mysterious sword, which was like an antelope hanging horn. He has always known that Yi Tian's strength is very strong, but even so, he did not expect that Yi Tian is now strong to this step. Even, compared with the time when he saw Yi Tian last time, it was as if they were different. He is a little famous among the people in the mountains. He has met many so-called proud teenagers.
But compared with Yi Tian, those people are just like ordinary people who can't be more ordinary. They don't have any comparable qualifications. All these made him tremble and feel a strong sense of frustration. He felt that he had been practicing hard all his life. Compared with Yi Tian, he felt that he had been practicing hard on dogs. Moreover, he was very worried that with Yi Tian's flying entry, even if he really bullied Yan Bing, he was a master. I'm afraid it can't help Yan Bing at all. If you really start, Yi Tian stabs him to death with a finger. Master Cho, what is it that makes you attach so much importance to it? Even if you die, you don't want to give it to both of them? At this time, Yi Tian looked at Xiao Changchun and asked with a smile. It's this thing. In front of Yi Tian, Xiao Changchun naturally had nothing to hide. After hearing his words, he put his hand into his arms and felt out a jade pendant with body temperature. What's this? Yi Tian took over the jade pendant. After a detailed study of the upper and lower parts, he was surprised to see that the two characters of Kunlun were written on it in seal script. What's more, it seems that these two characters are not refined by some secret technique or engraved on it, but like naturally generated veins. Kunlun Order. At this time, the Lingming stone monkey glanced at the jade pendant and said, "This is a keepsake to enter Kunlun. Without it, you can't enter some secret places in Kunlun. Only Kunlun jade veins unique to Kunlun can give birth to this kind of jade pendant with peculiar veins. With this, it will be convenient to enter Kunlun." Kunlun Order. Yi Tian is also very happy when he hears the speech. Kunlun must be full of territory and strict defense. With this jade pendant, he can reduce a lot of strength and enter some secret places to get more fortune. Yi Tian, who is this? Xiao Changchun has noticed Lingming stone monkey for a long time, but he thinks that the other party has incomparable eyesight, but he doesn't care to ask. At the moment, when he hears him speak, he asks Yi Tianwen in confusion. He is Lingming Master Lingming, he knows more about Kunlun, and this time I'm the one he brought. Yi Tian hesitates, looks at Xiao Changchun and says with a smile. Hiss. When Xiao Changchun hears Yi Tian's words, he can't help but take a breath. Yi Tian's power has reached such an incredible level. How can Yi Tian be called an elder? However, he forgot that Yi Tian also called him the elder. Moreover, the reason why Yi Tian called Lingming stone monkey is very simple, just as he called Xiao Changchun the elder, but he was older than him and a pioneer on the road of cultivation. I see. Xiao Changchun has met Master Lingming. Xiao Changchun nodded, then bowed his hand to Lingming Shiape. He was perplexed and said, "Master, I heard what you just said. This jade pendant is very useful in Kunlun, but now we are in Kunlun, aren't we?" Here no, it's not Kunlun at all. After hearing the sound, Lingming glanced around. A smile suddenly appeared at the corner of his mouth. He shook his head and said faintly, "This is not Kunlun at all? If this is not Kunlun, where is the real Kunlun?" Xiao Changchun was at a loss, but it was hard to ask Lingming stone monkey again. He could only nod his head. Xiao Changchun didn't understand the meaning of this, but Yi Tian did. In the eyes of Lingming stone monkey, Kunlun is just the periphery of Kunlun. For him, the ruins of Kunlun blocked by the field are the real Kunlun, the place with the people and things he is looking for 2,000 years ago, he never forgot. He wanted to know what could make Lingming stone monkey such a powerful existence. In the past, he saw too many powerful monks in the square-inch spiritual realm. Shouyuan was endless. He was used to seeing waves in life and death. Those people were no longer like people, but like old monsters. But those old monsters, it seems, are normal. Because he once talked about this question when he called on a highly respected Great Friar of Yupijing. The Great Friar looked at him and said with a smile, the reason why he asked this question was that he was 200 years old at the beginning. He was still young and didn't get used to this white dog. At that time, Yi Tiankai realized that he was actually abnormal, while the appearance of other great monks was normal. There is no doubt that Lingming stone monkey must be one of those great monks. Moreover, the longevity of Lingming stone monkey born from Lingshi is even longer than that of monks. But the more so it is, the more incredible it is that the Lingming stone monkey shows all these anomalies. Even if it's for this keepsake,
there's no need to lose your life for it. Master Chiu still needs to cherish his life in the future. Otherwise, if Yan Bing knows what's wrong with you, she's afraid that she will collapse. Immediately after that, Tian throws away these confused emotions in his mind and looks at Qiu Changchun, telling him in a deep voice. I just want to go to the corpse and see what's special about him. If I can get a chance, I'll take it back to Binger. When Qiu Changchun heard this, he was embarrassed to smile, but he didn't say a half of the words. The reason why he fought so hard to keep the jade medal was that he wanted to make Yan Bing stronger. In this way, he would not be far away from Tian. As a person from the past, he knows very well that with the gap between the cultivation realms getting bigger and bigger, the two people who used to meet each other are likely to become people of two worlds, and there will be less and less common topics and words. All he has done is to hope that his precious apprentice can always be with the people she likes. If he can get something and take it as their wedding gift, it would be wonderful. For these reasons, he has nothing to fear, even if he lost his life. Master Qiu, do you know where the Immortal's body is? When Tian heard Qiu Changchun's words, he could not help sighing and admiring Qiu Changchun more. Whether it's the square-inch spiritual realm or the earth, it's really rare for Qiu Changchun to treat his apprentice as a daughter. However, he also understands that there are reasons for everything. If Yan Bing wasn't very filial, Qiu Changchun would not have risked his life to help her find opportunities. I've heard that the location of the Immortal's body is probably in the Sanjianjuan area. It's still a long way away from us. Qiu Changchun explained, and then with some pride, he said with a smile, my Kunlunling is lucky. Coincidentally, it flew from the sky, fell in front of me, and was picked up by me. There is such a good thing as pie falling from the sky. Qiu Changchun's luck is really good enough. As soon as the words came out, Tian couldn't help but give Qiu Changchun a thumbs up. When people walk on the mountain, fortune comes from heaven. It's really impossible to compare the fate between people. However, Sanjianjuan is located in the depth of Kunlun Mountain. Even if his sword was used, it would take a while. Not only that, on the plateau, the air in the sky is thin. He and Lingming Stone Monkey can bear it, but Qiu Changchun, who was injured, can't bear it. Master Qiu, do you want us to send you to the city to rest or join us in the mountains? I suggest that I send you back to the city for treatment. Tian Yan here, after pondering a little, looking at Qiu Changchun, asked in a deep voice. No need, this little injury will not kill me. This chance may be for once in my life. Even if I give my life here, I will go to see what the immortal corpse looks like and whether it is a real immortal. Qiu Changchun, hearing the speech, shook his head and looked at Tian. He patted his chest and said that he was as strong as a cow. Well, let's go together. Master Qiu, if you feel sick, you must tell us. Tian hears the sound, ponders for a while, looks at Qiu Changchun, slowly way. He is also a cultivator. He knows Qiu Changchun's mentality and many opportunities. Maybe he can only encounter them once in his life. If he misses them, he will never have them again. Therefore, even taking some risks is absolutely worthwhile for monks. In the eyes of ordinary people, whether they are practitioners or mountain people, they are all above the world, just like gods. But in fact, the life of practitioners and mountain people is not so detached. Their cultivation is like sailing against the current, and it is turbulent and turbulent. If they are not careful, they will be swallowed up. Soon, the three people chose to set out, Tian Yu sword, with two people shuttle in the sky. One day, I can fly in the sky with my sword. When Qiu Changchun stood on the flying sword and suddenly flew up, he was stupid. Especially when he watched the white clouds and mountains appear at his feet, his dreamlike feeling was even stronger to the extreme. He even felt that he was just like an immortal walking by the wind. Correct, Tian is in the imperial sword, not you. Tian has been in contact with Ling Mingxi 8 for a long time. He finds that besides being greedy of fruits and melons, his favorite thing is to stab others mercilessly and make them feel ashamed. What's the difference between my apprentice son-in-law's royal sword and my royal sword? They are all the same. It's a pity that Qiu Changchun's skin is thicker than Lingming Stone Monkey's imagination. After hearing this, Qiu Changchun directly turned a blind eye and mercilessly accepted the past. But having said that, the shock in Xiao Changchun's heart is like the winding Kunlun Mountains. He knew that Yi Tian was powerful, but he didn't expect that this guy was so powerful that he could fly with his sword, and he still had enough 3 people. Although Yi Tian had fallen from the sky before, he still thought that Yi Tian was riding a helicopter or jumping off the mountain. But now it seems that he really underestimated Yi Tian. Like him, where he needs a helicopter, where he wants to go, and where he wants to step on the flying sword, he can move forward smoothly. While this shocked him, his heart was filled with a sense of loss. He estimated that in his life, I'm afraid he didn't have to think about coming out for Yin Bing anymore. Along the way, Yi Tian took Lingming Stone Monkey and Xiao Changchun to travel on the plateau. On the way, they saw not only countless mountains paved with white snow, winding in the earth, like black dragon with snow on their back, but also many people shuttling on the ground. These people, with vigorous and light movements, are obviously not the donkey friends or tourists who come to Kunlun for exploration. They should be the mountain people who are moved by the news. All the way back and forth, looking at the white snow under him, Xiao Changchun sighed at the magnificence of nature. At the same time, he felt a kind of fear in his heart. He can't imagine that if he's not lucky enough to meet Yi Tian, otherwise, he'll get rid of the chase. But with the situation after his injury, I'm afraid he'll belch before he gets to Sanjianjuan. The speed of flying swords is very fast. In the evening, they enter the snow-line area of Kunlun Mountain. The surrounding mountains can hardly see any rock mass. There are only countless white snow in sight. Although the moon is hanging high above their heads, the originally clear moonlight, shining on the snow, turns pale and makes people feel cold. At this time, Yi Tian was no longer in the imperial sword, but landed on the ground and chose 3 people to walk to Sanjianjuan. It's not that Yi Tian doesn't have enough magic power, but after entering the plateau, as the altitude gets higher and higher, the oxygen in the sky becomes thinner than before. The bodies of him and Lingming Stone Monkey are very different from ordinary people and can support them. However, although Xiao Changchun is the top monk in the prefecture level, he still can't support them. I'm a drag on you this time. Xiao Changchun looks at Yi Tian and Lingming Stone Monkey with an apologetic face. He knows that if it wasn't for himself, Yi Tian and Lingming Stone Monkey would waste so much time. Well, I haven't been here for many years. It's a kind of memory to have a look at the scenery and recall the past. Lingming Stone Monkey smiles and shakes his head. His eyes scan around. The color of his eyes is more and more strong. Yi Tian, how old is this elder? How old is he always? It seems that he is older than me. Looking at Lingming Stone Monkey, Xiao Changchun was perplexed and asked him curiously. Master Lingming, at least 2 rounds older than you. Yi Tian said with a smile. 2 rounds. Xiao Changchun swallowed his saliva in disbelief and looked at Lingming Stone Monkey in a dazed way. He couldn't believe that this guy, who looked like a middle-aged man, was so much older than himself. However, he didn't know that he was now a middle-aged man because Lingming Stone Monkey occupied the body of Lingchong's ancestor. His actual age was even older. The suppression alone lasted for 2,000 years. If you add in his time in Fengsuan spiritual realm, it would definitely last longer. Sneeze. At this time, Xiao Changchun suddenly raised his head and sneezed. Master Qiu, don't you mind? The Leaf Day hears a sound, immediately nervous looking at Xiao Changchun, inquires away. It wasn't long after he came down from the flying sword that Xiao Changchun began to have this kind of situation. He sneezed all the time, even hit his nose red, and he was breathing heavily. It looked and sounded like an old bellows. Not only that, his chest injury has not been healed, but also with his sneezing, involving the whole body, it always leads to the wound cracking, blood outside Qin, blood, very creepy. All these conditions make Yi Tian realize that Xiao Changchun's body may have some problems because of the pursuit of Shihao and Xie Jin. Otherwise, according to the vitality restoration ability of the prefecture level peak, this situation should not have happened at all. But the fatal thing is that all along, he didn't need to worry about the pain, so he didn't carry any medicine for the treatment of trauma, and there was no place to sell medicine on the snowy mountain. Even if he sometimes gives Xiao Changchun mana, it can only temporarily relieve Xiao Changchun's symptoms. He was very worried. Before he saw the Immortal's body, Xiao Changchun fell down first. Ah cho.
Xiao Changchun kept sneezing, one after another.
Listening to this, he felt extremely worried. Master Qiu, Master Lingming, let's have a rest first, and then go to the mountains. Seeing this, Yi Tian stops quickly and helps Xiao Changchun to a leeward place. Looking at Lingming's stone monkey, he says,
Yi Tian, I'm really sorry to drag you down.
Xiao Changchun feels the kind of fatigue of the body, looking at Yi Tian bitterly, slowly. He thought that although he was injured at the top of the prefecture level, he should be able to carry it down. However, he did not expect that Kunlun Mountain was so bitter and cold. Instead of getting better, his injury was getting worse and worse. He even felt that one of his feet had gone to hell.
Master Qiu, what are you talking about? What's the drag and what's not?
Yi Tian smiles and shakes his head, indicating that Xiao Changchun should not think so much and take good care of his body first.
Sneeze.
But before he could say a word, Xiao Changchun sneezed again. This time, the terrible thing was that along his nose, instead of the runny nose, the red blood spilled all over the snow.
It was as red as a plum blossom in the snow.
Not only that, at the moment of sneezing, Xiao Changchun's body fell to the ground like a wall.
How hot! It's broken. Seeing this, Yi Tian quickly steps forward and holds Xiao Changchun while touching his forehead.
He finds that Xiao Changchun's forehead is as hot as coals.
Plateau cold.
Next breath, Yi Tian suddenly remembered some information he found on the internet before he came to Kunlun Mountain. The cold is not a serious disease in the outside world. As long as people with good constitution can carry it without taking medicine, if they want to get better quickly, they just need to take a few VC. The mountain people, especially, have a strong constitution. They don't need to worry about the minor illness of cold in their whole life. If any mountain people get the minor illness of cold, they will surely become the laughingstock of other mountain people and become the object of ridicule. But catching a cold on the plateau is different from that in other places. It's a very difficult thing. Cold virus itself is nothing, but the complications it brings are fatal, not only because of nasal congestion, let people breathe less and less oxygen into the body, but also because of the low immunity caused by cold. It will lead to other diseases, and even cause extremely serious pulmonary edema, life-threatening. Now, Xiao Changchun has a fever and sneezes with blood. This shows that the old man must have suffered from a high-altitude cold. I'm afraid that he has gone from a cold to a serious pulmonary edema. When Yi Tian opened his eyes and scanned Xiao Changchun's lungs, he immediately found that his lungs were in an extremely unhealthy state. I'm afraid that the old people have long realized that something is wrong with their health. They have been trying not to speak just to avoid being dragged down. Master Lingming, please take care of Master Qiu for me. I'll go around to see if I can find someone or collect some medicine that can alleviate his condition. Yi Tian looks at Xiao Changchun's appearance, frowns, turns his head and looks at Lingming's stone monkey with embarrassment.
Don't worry.
I'll take care of him. Lingming's stone monkey is very easy to talk, nodded it will, indicating that Yi Tian need not worry. When Yi Tian heard this, he put some magic power into Xiao Changchun's body. After protecting the old man's viscera, he raised his sword and began to walk around.
Although mana can nourish vitality, Xiao Changchun's current situation is not only lack of vitality, but also to find the right medicine.
Otherwise, even if it is Yi Tianba, all the mana of his whole body will be given to him, but it is only a temporary cure, not a permanent cure. Even if the mana flow is too vigorous, it will increase Xiao Changchun's oxygen consumption. In that case, it will not slow down the disease, but will aggravate it. When Yi Tian stood up against the sword, he looked around. The towering snow mountain was vast and boundless.
Looking around, it was covered with white snow.
Moreover, there was no vegetation on the ground, just some cushion-like ceratoids which were used as food by grazing beasts such as Tibetan antelopes and wild donkeys.
I can't do it, so I have to give up.
First, Yu Jian takes Master Qiu down the mountain, takes him to the hospital, resets him, and then goes back to the mountain. Yi Tian looks around and finds that there are not only no medicinal materials around, but also no human traces. After that, he turns his eyebrows into a knot in one's heart and makes a decision. Click click. But just as Yi Tian was about to change his direction, along the front of a foothill, there came a burst of terrible cracking sound like dental acid. Then, on the mountain, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the ice and snow, which was as hard as steel. Moreover, the crack continued to spread and became bigger and bigger. The sound of tearing was just like thunder. Then, the ice and snow along the top of the mountain suddenly began to shake, and large pieces of snow powder whirled and danced in the air. It looked like the countless terrible waves caused by the terrible tornado sweeping the sea, or like a snow-colored giant dragon rushing down from 9 days. Then, large areas of snow began to collapse, one by one, sliding down, as if the mountain had completely collapsed. Even Tian is still some distance away from the snow mountain where the snow and ice are collapsing, but at this moment, there are large pieces of fine snow powder in the air, whistling like sand, hitting his body, making his skin slightly painful. Avalanche. Tian sees this scene, can't help but speechless. The great power of nature shocked to the extreme. Although he was a great monk in Yupu, he still felt a kind of terror and shock when he saw the scene. Even now, he felt that, in the face of such a terrible avalanche, he had no other way but to fly with his sword to avoid it. Once he was hit by the high-speed snow, it was absolutely no different from being hit by tens of thousands of tons of steel plates, and he had to be crushed into a pool of flesh and blood powder. Although human beings are the masters of the vast world, claiming to be the primates of all things, in fact, in the face of this extreme natural power, there is no difference between human beings and ants who can be trampled to death with 1 foot. It's not only the earth, but also the square-inch spiritual realm. In the vast starry sky, there are many forbidden Jedi. In that place, even the powerful monks in Yupu realm are extremely weak. Once they enter, what they are waiting for may be the dissipation of life and death. No, this avalanche is not so simple, but in the next moment of shock, Tian's face suddenly changed, showing shock and ecstasy. The so-called avalanche is actually a contest between snow and the Earth's gravity. The cohesive force of snow hopes to keep the snow in place, but the Earth's gravity hopes to pull the snow down. When the snow stays on the slope, these two forces are competing all the time and keeping a balance. But this delicate balance is extremely easy to break. Even if someone shouts in the snow mountain, or the beast's step is heavier, it will lead to a disastrous avalanche. However, at this moment, Tian did not hear any wind sound. To be exact, he felt that there was not even a trace of wind around him, and he did not hear the roar of any large beast. Therefore, at this moment, Tian has determined that someone must have done something in that foothill area, and then triggered this terrible avalanche. This discovery makes Tian's heart suddenly become excited. If someone is in that area, no matter they are mountain people, or travel companions and tourists, they will surely have much more preparation when they enter the mountain than themselves. Maybe, they have the medicine Qiu Changchun needs. Even if the avalanche situation of the mountains did not stop at the moment, the air was full of snow and waste, the air was turbulent, and he ventured into it. Even the imperial sword might be involved in the snow, but he was still willing to try his best and gamble. Although the snow brought by the avalanche is as fine as sand, but under the terrible impact of the avalanche, one by one, it seems to be as terrible as iron sand. Even if it is as strong as him, he feels a pricking pain in his skin. Not only that, more terrifying than the impact of snow, but also the strong airflow impact brought by avalanche. This kind of impact is extremely powerful. When the flying sword shuttles through it, it makes people feel that it is like falling into the torrent of breaking the dike and being blown around. Not only that, but also the air becomes extremely thin because of the terrible impact. It makes people feel almost suffocated when they walk through it. Fortunately, when Tian was in Fengsu and Lingyu, he and other friars used to fly swords. His sword skills were superb. He kept shuttling between the wind and snow. Although there were many dangers, it seemed that the next breath would be like a fallen leaf in the air, which was ruthlessly suppressed by the snow. He finally broke through this area smoothly. Sure enough, there are people. Not only that, when Tian swept the snowstorm caused by the avalanche and appeared in the corner of the mountain shelter, he immediately saw that there were a group of guys wrapped in climbing suits, carrying a climbing stick and a huge package. Sure enough, someone. So well equipped, are they mountaineers? Tian saw this, and his eyes immediately passed a touch of joy. When he came here, he was most worried about meeting a group of mountain people. Because mountain people often have confidence in their own physique, even if they have made preparations, they will not be so well prepared. There is no medicine for Qiu Changchun. But tourists and mountaineers are different. Before they enter the mountain, they must be fully prepared and take all kinds of medicine.
George, don't you say the snow here is so strong that there can't be an avalanche? What's going on now? 3 or 4 of my people are covered by avalanches. If you don't make things clear today, I'll ask you to pay for their lives.
But just as Tian was about to come out from his hiding place and discuss with the mountaineers to see if he could buy some special medicine from them so that he could take it back to treat Shou Changchun, a stiff voice of Chinese came from the front. Not only that, he also saw that the guy who was speaking, even drew a gun from his waist and pointed it at the forehead of a man in front of him.
Foreigner? What are these guys doing in Kunlun Mountain? And with a gun?
When Tian heard this, he frowned and hastened to say hello to them. He went back to his hiding place and listened. He wanted to know what these foreigners wanted to do when they entered Kunlun Mountain.
Mr. Chandler, I have walked here many times before.
The snow here has always been very solid, and there has never been an avalanche.
I don't know what happened this time.
Maybe it was the big avalanche in Sanjianju not long ago that shook the ground and made the snow here unstable. After hearing the foreigner's words, the man named Duoji was obviously frightened, trembled, and then said in a panic, I told you before that the situation in the snow mountain is changing rapidly, and the geological structure is very unstable. Although I have walked here nearly 100 times, I can't guarantee that there will be no problem.
I really don't understand.
If you want to hunt Tibetan antelopes, you can do it in the previous valley.
Why do you have to go inside again?
While he is talking, Tian has already got enough eyesight to see the situation in the field.
There were 14 or 5 people in the stadium.
Besides, except for George, who was wearing a wolfskin hat and had 2 plateau red cheeks, the others, who were dressed in mountaineering suits, wrapped up tightly, holding a climbing stick in their hands and carrying a big backpack, were all foreigners.
Hunting Tibetan antelope? These foreigners are cross-border poachers?
Closely following, the brow of Leaf Day couldn't help ring into a knot in one's heart. The eye ground shows cold on.
Tibetan antelope is a very spiritual creature living in Kunlun Mountain, the Qinghai Tibet Plateau of China.
Because of the severe cold, the fur of Tibetan antelope is very thin. In this case, the shawl made of their fur is extremely light. A good shawl only weighs 100 grams, or even can be folded into strips passed through the middle of the ring, so it has the reputation of ring shawl. What's more, antelope cashmere is not only slim and light, but also has excellent warmth retention. There is even a very exaggerated saying that if a warm pigeon egg is wrapped with Tibetan antelope cashmere shawl, it can even hatch small pigeons. Under such circumstances, Tibetan antelope shawl is very popular with the rich. In the black market, the price of a shawl is often hundreds of thousands of dollars. However, the cashmere of Tibetan antelope is very rare.
There is only a small part of each Tibetan antelope.
To make a shawl, it is necessary to sacrifice the lives of 3 Tibetan antelopes. Therefore, as early as a long time ago, China decided that the Tibetan antelope is to protect animals, so that these plateau elves can reproduce. But Tian didn't expect that these foreigners had eaten bear heart and leopard gall, and dared to come to Kunlun mountain area to poach Tibetan antelopes. However, he was even more confused when he was angry. According to Doji, although these guys were poaching, they didn't go to the area where the Tibetan antelope lived. Instead, they wanted to go all the way to the deeper part of the snow mountain.
Is it true that their so-called poaching is just an excuse?
In fact, they come for the sake of immortal corpse. In a flash, Tian's heart suddenly moved, and carefully scanned the foreigners to feel their breath. Just for a moment, he felt a kind of killing breath from these guys. This kind of breath could not be produced by poaching wild animals, but more like having experienced the baptism of blood and fire. Not only that, this kind of breath let him feel especially familiar, just like where to feel the same.
Prisoner killer.
These guys are prisoners of heaven. The next breath, Tian's suddenly reaction, the breath of these people, and he had met the day prisoner killer, the same. It's just that he hasn't met these guys for a long time, so he didn't react for a while.
Ah, George, I'm just joking with you. We are friends. How could I hit you with a gun?
Just now those brothers, it is their own bad life, did not see the right way. You continue to lead us. As long as we get to the Sanjianjuan side, I promised your reward, will not be less at this time. The killer named Chandler, who was a prisoner in heaven, shook his hand, turned his gun around in his palm, and he pushed it back to his waist. Then he took Doji's shoulder and laughed. Mr. Chandler, you are a real joke. You scared me to death. After hearing this, Duoji took a long breath and wiped off the cold sweat he was scared out of even in the ice and snow. He looked at Chandler in confusion and said, how do you say you are going to Sanjianjuan? There is a protected area over there. If someone patrols and wants to beat antelopes, he will be caught. We don't need you to worry about what we are going to do. You just need to be your own guide. Chandler heavily patted Duoji's help, and then said with a smile, as long as you are obedient and promise your reward, it will only be more, not less. Mr. Chandler, you misunderstood me. I don't think it meant any harm. Duoji quickly waved his hand, and then said, it's just that there are many snow-capped mountains on the other side of Sanjianjuan. When we pass here, there are avalanches, and those places may also change. What's more, once there is an avalanche, the temperature will be greatly reduced, which may lead to plateau complications. In case of a cold and emphysema, the trouble will be great and it will be fatal. Ha ha ha, you don't have to worry about this little thing. We brought the special medicine long before we came here. Hearing this, Chandler raised his head and laughed. He patted his backpack and said with a smile, we have prepared the special medicine before we come here. What plateau complications, what cold and anoxic emphysema, take one and have a rest for one night, we can recover.